times this season, how are they going to win a division?
Would be interesting if that happened. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 5 times. I said, I think Brady's going to crumble.
How about Thomas Brady? Obviously, folks, that has not worked out very well. We'll re-edit the trailer. But James, floor is yours, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of back.
I promise, folks, we re-edit the trailer. It'll be a lot better because it definitely aged like fine wine, just like, well, many other quarterbacks in the league right now.
Yeah. But hey, welcome to week 7 and episode 8 of Punt Off. Of course, I'm James Gonzalez here with John Alcorn. And we've been away for a while, scheduling COVID for me. You know, I'm happy to get my voice back a little bit here. I'm doing some other shows and just trying to get back into the swing of things. Of course, I've been watching everything and just in amazement almost of how many teams are running the mill, you know, middle of the pack here. And then we have some bad teams and then probably 3 good teams. And that's about it. Or maybe 4. I don't know really, but a lot of them are on buys when you think about it this week. 7, Buffalo, Minnesota, Philadelphia, and the Rams. We all missed them this week. And what we had left was just a mix of really bad games, honestly. I can't think of one good one that really stood out, you know. But, John, how have you been?
No, I talked to you on Monday. We had him on the Jonathan show. It's like, it's a perfect week of sports. And not even 45 days later, it went down the drain, just like Matt Ryan's season. But no, we're good, man. Just happy to be doing the podcast. And we definitely both, I know, man, have a lot to say about certain quarterbacks in the league.
So, of course, Thursday Night Football has been a topic of mentioning of how bad it's been. We had somewhat of a decent game until a certain point. It was New Orleans at Arizona. Arizona did it defensively with 2 pick sixes in a row by Andy Dalton in the first half. When you think about it, the game was 28-14. And then there was some comeback attempts by New Orleans, but Arizona held on 42-34. Cardinals are 3-4. The Saints are 2-5. I think everybody is now seeing where the Saints ought to be. They're pretty much down. And the Cardinals are going as Kyler Murray takes them. We saw him get into a huge argument with Cliff Kingsbury. And I just wonder when Cliff will be ousted by Kyler. I don't know how Cardinals organization is going to be, but I know that they have the power over things, but it seems like Kyler, like I've been mentioning, he has control all over the organization. Kyler did throw for 1 touchdown and 204 yards. He was sacked twice. Running game, Benjamin did well. He had a touchdown as well as Ingram. Receiving-wise, DeAndre Hopkins came back. He had 10 receptions for 103 yards. Dorchick, the tight end, had a receiving touchdown. For the Saints, though, Andy Dalton did throw for 361 yards and 4 touchdowns, but that seemed to be in garbage time. But he also had 3 interceptions, and I mentioned the 2 pick sixes. And every time I try to defend Andy Dalton, this happens. Kamara only had 49 yards on the ground. Chris Olave did well, though. 7 receptions, 106 yards. I know he had that scare with the concussion against, I believe, Seattle a couple of games ago, but he's turning out to be a good rookie for him, and they really need him. I know the Saints aren't going anywhere, but if Olave continues to have a good game, I think he'll have a good season, I should say. I think a lot of hopes are on him to be something. and I really like his game. I don't know if you've seen him play before, but we have a comment really quick. It's Christy Wilson. She says, "Hi guys."
What's up?
Hi Christy, how are you doing? I know the weather is getting colder where you are. Here it's hot as hell, making my sickness come back pretty much. But thank you for tuning in, Christy, wherever you may be. So, John, did you get the chance to see Thursday Night Football, and what was your reaction?
How does Andy Dalton have any fans as a starting temporary quarterback in the National Football League? The Cardinals are the Kardashians of the NFL. There's always drama. There's always something going on. And there's that funny video that Andy Dalton, I think, throws his second interception. He throws literally the Cardinals had, 2 to 3 pick sixes in under 3.5 minutes. You see Andy Dalton turns around, has that face. You see the defender jump slowly into the end zone. And Andy Dalton knew in that moment, my time in the NFL is done after the 2022 season. But I think when you look at the Saints before the season, and specifically in this game, you got to be honest. Even despite whatever else is going on in the NFC South, and my voice is a little bit hoarse because it was football this weekend, financially, they're stuck. You have a young head coach who knows if he's going to be bailed out or if they're going to throw him under the bus. Alvin Kamara has situations coming up soon. Olave, it'd be interesting, though, because early on, you could have like Brandon Cooks and Michael Thomas. Now you have Olave and Michael Thomas, so that could be the next duo. Now, financially, they may have to reconstruct Michael Thomas's contract. But again, Andy Dalton shows who Andy Dalton is, and I'm pretty sure his only Pro Bowl year was the year when he was a substitutional quarterback in the NFL. But for the Cardinals, man, if your quarterback has to tell you, calm the flip down, that tells me something. Get your emotions in check. If your quarterback is telling you that, that's lack of leadership. And are we generally surprised? There's no leadership within the Arizona Cardinals organization. No. And so, I mean, I'll give Cardinals credit. They won the game. But yet again, despite what Hopkins did, despite some plays here and there, like you said, Kyler Murray did not have an impressive game. I want to look at his numbers for the season and talking about this game because Kyler Murray, he's not elite. Why are we giving guys like passes? Because, it's so cool to talk about because he has mobility. The last 2 weeks, 426 passing yards, a touchdown and a pick. I'm sorry, is that going to win you the division? Like, yeah, okay, you had 314 versus LA, give you that. 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, no picks in week 1. But overall, bro, 7 touchdowns, 4 picks. Geno Smith is playing better than you. I still don't see this as a winning football team. I'm not looking at the wins and loss and everything else. I'm looking at just this game alone outside of the numbers, James. If your quarterback, I'll repeat this again, if your quarterback is telling you, calm the flip down, you've already lost this team. Like, you can't have in any way, usually the coach trying to correct the quarterback because he's the head coach, which is why Deion Sanders won't take a job in the NFL or in like a top or a power school if Saban retired or take anything. Kyler Murray and this team, they're okay. They're there. But I think what we're seeing, their defense, is it really, I guess it could go both ways, James. Is it their defense that really showed up? Or is it also continuing the narrative and the exposing of Andy Dalton? Andy Dalton got replaced by Joe Burrow. He went to Dallas. That didn't work. Now he's in the Saints. And I'm pretty sure, wasn't he in Chicago 2 years ago? So it was, since the Bengals, Chicago, Dallas, the Saints. 3 teams in less than 3 years. This guy has been done in the NFL. And at some point, as much as we want to say Jameis Winston this and Jameis Winston that, we know Jameis Winston has an arm. But like we talk about with slim quarterbacks, like as much as I don't like the Undisputed Show, they have a good point. Like Shannon Sharp says, the best thing for your quarterback is availability. Because when your quarterback is available, you know things that you can work on. There's a problem of, hey, your right quarterback's weaknesses are this. Let's work on those in practice. Let's see, okay, how much was he in the shotgun? How was he in the pocket? We won't be able to evaluate those things if your quarterback continues to get hurt time and time again. Jameis Winston is consistently as hurt as Blake Griffin is in getting to an all-star game. That's obviously all jokes, but I mean, I'll give the Cardinals the credit for that win. But honestly, man, it's hard to give a complete evaluation because I don't know if it's the Cardinals defense or if it's really Andy Dalton. But honestly, you could say both. But again, for the Saints, like you would think, James, with this loss, this would really screw them up. But right now, the division is wide open. 2-5, 2-5, 3-4, 3-4. No team in that division has a 500 record. But we'll have to see what happens because I honestly thought the division would be boom, Bucks go to the playoffs to win a division. But right now, James, it's still wide open, and technically, the Panthers and the Saints are only one game behind for time for first place. No, this doesn't even happen. That's crazy.
And part of that NFC South was the next game I'm looking at. It was your Bengals defeating the Atlanta Falcons 35-17. Bengals go to they're tied with the Ravens for first place 4-3. Falcons one of those 3-4 teams. Burrow did well. He threw for 481 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times. I think that's the norm nowadays with the Burrow and the offensive line. Mixon had a rushing touchdown as well as Burrow. Tyler Boyd had an awesome game. Chase did as well. Both had 8 receptions. Chase had 2 touchdowns. Boyd had 1. For the Falcons, some of that good feelings they had that quickly dispersed. Mariota only had 124 yards passing, 1 touchdown. He was sacked 3 times. They didn't do much on the ground. 50 yards for Aguilar with a touchdown. Bird had a receiving touchdown as well for the Falcons. Bengals defense, it seems like they're not getting too much credit. They got to have maybe one of those spotlight games where they force multiple, turnovers and scores. But they're doing fairly well. And I think a lot of people should be giving them more credit. But what was your evaluation of your team, the Bengals, defeating Atlanta?
Set aside bias, though, I think we really need to understand because as much as I want to give all the team one and team this, I want my Bengals defense to play like the Jets did against the Packers. I want my Bengals defense to play like the Cardinals did in exposing Andy Dalton and exposing that offense, not having a quarterback, instilling, hey, when you don't have that quarterback, how do you instill that kind of offenses going into the year? James Winston's the guy, and adjusting the offense and offensive plays game by game, week by week is definitely going to change. But there was a play where Marcus Mariota threw a big touchdown. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is, while it's just a touchdown, that's a big deal. Because that also falls on the safeties. That falls on the quarterbacks. When the Bengals drafted the third best quarterback in the draft this year and somehow still have Eli Apple on their team, I get the credit they won the game. I think Joe Burrow, there's this thing, regardless of wins or losses, what's going to happen after the end of the year, people are talking about, the junior slump or Joe Burrow's falling off. And if I'm correct, since that week 1 performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers and T.J. Watt and those guys were playing, since then, I'm going to look these stats up right now. Since week 1, let me just say, Joe Burrow, I believe, has over 12 touchdowns. So at some point, we could say the Bengals offensive line is this or it's trash. I get it. But I do still think there's a lot to improve on for it. All right, look it up. So since week 1, when Joe Burrow had 2 touchdowns, 4 picks, would have been 7 picks, 4, 6, 7, 10, 13 touchdowns, and 1 pick since that week 1 performance. You get T. Higgins back. You get Tyler Boyd back. Higgins, Boyd, and Chase are phenomenal. Jamar Chase, for the 3rd time in 3 weeks, you're getting me a touchdown in fantasy. I'm so glad my team won. This is a division where you have the injuries with the Browns. You have situations where Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, at least so far in that division, are the only team in that division to blow 3 double-digit leads. So time for first place. We talk about consistency. They're getting it back. Once you got all your players, your offense is playing well, you're getting plays down the field. Again, the offensive line and defense, like you said, we need them to play better because at some point, it's going to come towards the end of the season. What is Lamar Jackson going to do? What's going to happen with the Steelers? What happens if the Browns get a couple wins here and there and Deshaun Watson comes back and he plays in Week 12 against the Houston Texans December 4th? I get it, but I'm happy my Bengals got the win. But I really think that Joe Burrow, he's really, really good because people forget about it. He had that crazy hit in college, and since then he never lost a college game. We can look at numbers. This is why I also said about Patrick Mahomes, why despite losing Tyreek Hill, he's going to be just fine. Like Shannon said, it's going to take 12, 14, 15-minute drives. But when you can see greatness in a quarterback outside of the numbers, they're going to be just fine. Joe Burrow mentally is so great, just like a Josh Allen, just like a Mahomes and certain other quarterbacks in the league where numbers can show one thing, but individual plays and the mentality in terms of his decision-making shows me another. And to have 12, 13 touchdowns to one pick, that means you're not turning the ball over. Now that you got your receivers back, the defense needs to step it up, run the ball a little bit more, and it could be really interesting in the AFC North. I'm so glad they got the win, man, because with the Ravens being on the bye week, with the Browns being the Browns, and the Steelers being the Steelers last night, this division could be absolutely just in shambles. Like, I thought, like, this is probably one word I would describe this season, James, is an outlier. This season has been an outlier. Who could have picked that this, not just this division, but the NFL would be like this quarterback-wise?
Like I mentioned before, the show today, it seems like half of the NFL teams need a quarterback change, or I don't know, like through the draft or through the trades, and hopefully they paid attention. If some backups are doing well or did well in the preseason, that they can bring them in and see if they fit for their team. And we had a little quarterback controversy during the week, but Dak Prescott got his job back. He struggled at first, but he did fairly well. And he led, along with the defense, the Cowboys to a 24-3 victory over Detroit. Dallas now 5-2, the Lions 1-5. I really wanted them to do better, but they're definitely not ready. Dak Prescott with 207 yards passing, one touchdown. He was sacked twice. On the ground, Pollard at 83 yards. Elliott had 2 rushing touchdowns. In the air, CeeDee Lamb had 70 yards receiving. You know, it wasn't too much of an offensive game for them, but the defense did the job. Jared Goff, 228 yards, two interceptions and 5 sacks. So Dallas got in there very well. Jamal Williams only ran for 79 yards. And in the air, Raymond was the receiving leader for Detroit with 75, but no receiving touchdowns for Detroit. Monse Brown only had 1 catch for 4 yards. I thought they were going to get him the ball more. But Dallas definitely did it with their defense, and that was good to see if you're a Cowboy fan. So what did you take away from Dallas defeating Detroit 24-6?
Michael Parsons is one of those guys like Josh Allen in terms of one thing. When you just see a couple of plays or early flashes, you can tell pretty much almost already that he is going to be a phenomenal player in the NFL. Like when they say 11 from heaven, and this guy is transcendent and phenomenal. I mean, my gosh, this guy, even if it doesn't always show up in sacks numbers, he's making a difference in the defense. What shows a great defensive player is not just their individual numbers. When you talk about guys like Lawrence Taylor or Aaron Donald or Michael Strahan or Piper Jules did before he retired a little bit from the Niners, is when they make other players around them better, even when it doesn't help them in their individual numbers. But honestly, man, this is definitely, how would I put it? It was one of those games, you know, man, I'll be honest with you. This has been it's like I said, folks, we apologize. It's been all crazy schedules. But the Cowboys, I'm sorry, dude, I am so tired. I am so sorry. The Cowboys, Michael Parsons, we knew Dak Prescott coming back wasn't going to be 100%. And the big concern was when Dak Prescott gets sacked, gets on his back, that could really affect his shoulder, which he had an injury on, and his thumb. And it shows that he's not fully ready yet. And I want to get to the fools out there that were somehow entertaining it at all. Cooper Rush. Should we give Cooper Rush a job? Oh my goodness. Cooper Rush this. Cooper Rush that. James, there are 32 teams in the National Football League, and less than 4 teams have a great backup quarterback. That's what Cooper Rush is. He's been on this team since 2017. He's a great backup quarterback. But like so many people said at ESPN, you don't pay a guy $40+ million to sit on the bench even when he's fully healthy. And this is the recipe for the Cowboys. It has been since Dak Prescott's rookie year. Like you said, you wanted Tony Pollard to get some carries to share with Ezekiel Elliott. The recipe for the Cowboys, since it's been Dak Prescott's rookie year, and they were 2 games away from the Super Bowl, is running the football a lot, which opens up the passing game where your play action, your shotgun, your RPOs, all these different plays that can affect the defense. Is what can separate a quarterback from a great quarterback is being able to redirect the defensive player, meaning if I'm looking over here, I already know a Dallas Schultz or CeeDee Lamb or, oh my God, Noah Brown yesterday. That scared the living daylights out of me, dude. It looked real bad for number 85 for the Cowboys. That looked scary. It looked like something really bad could have happened to him, like he could have been really hurt or more specifically a lot, dude. That was scary. So shout out to him. Hopefully he's doing really well. But Dak Prescott 200 yards. I don't think we expect him to throw for 350 to 400 because that's not that type of team. Like regardless of how much you pay Prescott or how much you paid Elliott, you know the bread and butter is a duo of running backs. Get them the ball. It gives Dak Prescott the confidence to throw it at the middle. He's not going to throw it 40, 50 yards like a Josh Allen or Mahomes or certain other quarterbacks in the league. He's still going to get the ball down the field. Get him that confidence going because, like I said, the Dallas Cowboys can't afford these sacks. They only got sacked, I think he said, twice on the day. So each sack, oh my gosh. But if the Cowboys get to the playoffs, which I do and don't hope they do, it's a conflict of interest. I picked him to win a division, Jeans. But at the same time, it's like you see what the Eagles are doing. The bye week could be definitely really interesting. Nick Sirianni, when they beat, I think, was it the Cowboys or I forgot who they beat. And he's like, that's game. Bleep you. How about them Eagles? I do like the passion and energy there. And so there was Cowboys. Thank you. But at the end of the day, I definitely want Prescott to be healthy. I want them to do well. Like I said, this division is going to be really tough because this is a very good division for running the football. That is, we're not talking about in terms of translating for wins, but I give the Cowboys credit. But it wasn't a good win. At halftime, they scored 3 points. Even with Tony Pollard, even with Ezekiel Elliott, and Dallas Schultz, like you said, it's not looking good. He definitely could miss some time because, dude, I don't know what happened. Like, the least favorite F word for a player is franchise tag. I don't know what happens. Kirk Cousins got franchise tag twice, then went to Minnesota. Dallas Schultz got franchise tag. I'm not saying there's some aroma around there, but my gosh, franchise tag does not equal long-term success. But I give them credit. They pulled in the end, but yet again, you could also look at the Lions defense, which is literally third worst in almost every defensive category. So you could look at it like that. Hey, you had the first half where CeeDee Lamb. I think at some point, despite the win, CeeDee Lamb is going to have to match some what Michael Parsons is doing on defense. Michael Parsons is already making a name in a statement for himself. Where CeeDee Lamb was drafted in the first round in 2020, yet still has not made a name for himself as a true number one receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. I give him the win, but the thing, though, for the Lions, before I give it back to you, James, for the hosting duties, I think if the Lions keep losing these games, you're going to have Dan Campbell in the hot seat. Because as much as we love the energy and the passion, I get it. But if that doesn't translate to wins, this is a business. The business is going to be cold-hearted. The Colts Dolphins traded Vernon Davis, and he had multiple Pro Bowl years with the Colts. So at some point, outside of the passion or the energy, that's great. But if that leadership is not translating to winning games, it doesn't matter how great of a leader you are. If you're not winning games, you can change the franchise mentally and emotionally. If you're not changing it in terms of wins and losses, I don't know how much longer Dan Campbell could last. Are we going to be on, at least right now? Let's say it is, I must use the day, October 24th. It is week 7, or about to be week 8. Can we really see, with how the Lions are going, could they really see Dan Campbell be the head coach in 2023?
Yeah, I think it's a 5-year plan, and they're only in year 2. All you want is to see some type of progress, and they're not in it for wins per se. They're in it for draft capital and progression. And I know everybody wants to see them win, but they're not built like that yet. So I'm giving them a pass. I'm giving them patience in hopes that next year they'll win at least 6 games. It's not looking like it this year, but I think it's a 5-year plan, and that's what they thought when they got him, where it's just going to be about progression. It's not going to be about winning. They're not built like that. So
I wonder, and you do have a valid point, but it's like Detroit, they're the same team. And I'm not saying they should fire him or that he should be on the hot seat, folks. But this is the same organization that followed Jim Caldwell at their 10-6 season and made the playoffs. So I wonder, what their mentality. If you really believe in Dan Campbell, okay, great. You know multiple reasons. Okay, you got Sano from Oregon, Sewell, or the offensive tackle from Oregon. You're going to build on the running back. They struggled with getting running back. First, you have Jamal Wins as a backup. There's 2 other guys that really did not get the job done. Jared Goff is not the guy. You have at least a solid receiver in Monte Brown. He can play the ball. But like you said, James, you have to have some progress. And if we're going to the end, again, this is only week 7, so anything can change, and they could be a playoff team. Not saying it's going to happen, folks. Not saying it's going to happen. But with how 2 other teams in that division are playing, and I don't know how far off that is. But if they keep this up, there could be some consideration that, hey, every decision you make, you better be hitting the mark on 100%. Or we're going to have a conversation like Hugh Jackson, where if you don't have an improvement in 2023, you're fired.
Yeah, that could be. Let's go to a division rival in the AFC South. Rivalry, I should say. Tennessee hosted Indy. The Titans won 19-10. Tennessee is up in the division now. They're 4-2. The Colts are 3-1-1. Right away, Tennessee knocked them in the mouth. They were up 13-0 at the half. Indianapolis tried to come back, but they didn't get much from Jonathan Taylor. Only 58 yards rushing. The Titans' defense did a great job. Matt Ryan did throw for 243 yards, 1 touchdown, but 2 picks, and he was sacked 3 times. Campbell had the yards and a touchdown for Indianapolis. Tannehill didn't do much for the Titans, only 132 yards passing. He was sacked twice. But Derrick Henry rushed the ball for 30 carries, 128 yards. Austin Hooper was the leading rusher for our receiver for Tennessee, only with 56 yards. It was a game where Tennessee relied on their strengths, basically, rushing the ball, and defensively they got to Ryan. They made some interceptions happen, and that's all you can ask for them. Adams and Long had the picks for Tennessee, and they did well in that aspect, but not offensively, and you expect that nowadays with the Titans, where Randy Bullock was their star, making 4 for 4 for their field goals. But the big news coming out of Indy this morning, Matt Ryan no longer the starter. They will go with what's his name? Sam Ellen.
I think it's Sam Ellinger, but I may be
Ellinger, yeah.
I'm not the best pronouncer.
Yeah, Ellinger, and I didn't see that coming. And you pointed it out, and I've tried to give Matt Ryan a pass for so many years, and the fact that Frank Wright, who's on the hot seat himself, said, they're going with Ellinger the rest of the season, that kind of surprised me. We remember Matt Ryan had a big game the week before against, I believe it was Jacksonville. He threw for over, 400 yards, whatever it was. It looked like himself again. but this is probably the end of the road, it seems like, for Matt Ryan. And the Colts have to go back to the drawing board again and figure out who's going to be their quarterback. Hopefully they don't go for another old quarterback. They go for someone younger, someone mobile. I think that would really help them out. But for this game, Tennessee showed why they're the leaders of the AFC South, if that's a good thing or not. But they win 19-10. So what did you think about Tennessee's win over Indy?
There's two videos I want to share. But this is what Matt Ryan says when the Colts ask him something.
No.
That's how he feels when they ask him to play quarterback and when he gets bits. I tried to tell y'all, Matt Ryan is a fraud. All he is Phillip Rivers with more playoff experience and less kids. At some point, the writing's been on the wall. 28-3 should have been your chance to be like, okay, maybe Matt Ryan is not the best in offensive decisions. I mean, we can go back to the Super Bowl, everything else, but the big thing from that Super Bowl was even if, let's say, the coach made a bad decision or is about to make a bad decision, okay, I think I know exactly what to do. We're going to talk about it in the huddle with the office. We're going to change it. Boom, first down, would have won the game. But the point is, 5 years later, Matt Ryan is like Kirk Cousins, very similar in terms of when they make decisions, is at the worst possible times.
Thank you. I'll take my football medal of honor award. I try to tell people Matt Ryan is a fraud. All Matt Ryan is Phillip Rivers with less kids and a Super Bowl experience. I tried to tell y'all.
I say this about the Colts, and I think most people could agree. The Colts have been able to formulate their defense. You've been able to get the receivers. You've had the tight ends. You've been able to you traded for DeForest Buckner in 2020. Thinking that's gonna change everything. You trade for Phillip Rivers, nothing. Or you have you get so many different quarterbacks in 2020. At some point, the GM for the Colts needs to be fired at the end of the year. I want to look at what the Colts GM is. Why are we giving a pass? And this is why, at some point, as much as I love Pat McAfee, he thought Jacoby Brissett could have done something. And Chris Ballard, I'm calling for his job after the season. How long has he been with the manager? Okay, he's been there since 2017. Okay, so let's look up different Colts quarterbacks. Remember, this is a GM, folks. The GM makes a lot of the decisions, or agrees to a lot of the decisions to trade for different quarterbacks. Andrew retired. Jacoby Brissett. Nick Foles. You've also had, that's right, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan. Let's keep going because, James, I believe there are more quarterbacks. Going to history. This past since 2019. All right. 2019, they had. Let me look it up. But the point is it's honestly a joke. Like, I've never seen a team that has wasted such a prime of their defense. We could have thought the same thing with the Rams years ago. Oh, you got to the Super Bowl, but you've been struggling ever since. I mean, my gosh. Matt Ryan was going to win you a Super Bowl? Are you high on drugs? At some point, James, there are 32 teams in the National Football League. And Matt Ryan, at any point in time, I don't truly, genuinely believe it. I could be wrong. Set aside what I think about Matt Ryan as a quarterback. Oh, Carson Wentz there too. Last year, he's never been in top 5 at his position. He's like Kirk Cousins with an MVP. I mean, at some point, like Darius Leonard has been there for 5 years. He can name all the different quarterbacks. You had Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and now Sam Elliott. 5 different starting quarterbacks. Since barely 3 years ago, 5 different quarterbacks. And you're going to tell me that the Colts GM deserves to keep his job after the year. Chris Ballard, He's one of the dumbest GMs in the National Football League. Dude, if I told you, if I'm a GM, and let's say you're the owner of, let's just say, the Commanders, or let's say the Dolphins. Okay, James Gonzalez, owner of the Dolphins. All right, you're looking at your GM. You've had 3 to 4, 5+ different starting quarterbacks since 2019. Your reaction to probably is to, guess what? Fire him. So, honestly, the Colts are a complete disaster, and I think this division really is going to go to the last couple weeks of the season to see who's really going to win the AFC South. Because, like you said, and I've said this for years, the Tennessee Titans recipe and bread and butter is running the football. But for that to be your bread and butter and your sole success as an offense, you're not necessarily going to have any playoff wins or compete for a division or the AFC Championship game. But I give them the credit. They won the game yesterday. Division games are hard. But Matt Ryan got replaced. Who thought we said this? Matt Ryan got replaced by Sam Ehlinger. Rather he was hurt or not. Sam Ehlinger, I'm not saying Sam Ehlinger is going to do anything, but Sam Ehlinger started as a third-string quarterback, became the backup quarterback, and now is a starter. Actions speak louder than words. You spent 1 year with Carson Wentz, traded. You spent not even half a season with Matt Ryan, and you bench him. What does that tell you? It's not just Matt Ryan is done as a starter in the NFL, and he could go down the path of Andy Dalton. In a couple years, he could be out of the league. And what does that say for the GM? He could be gone too. But honestly, man, I just try to tell people I don't like to be right about certain things, but at some point, the writing's been on the wall. Matt Ryan was never an elite quarterback in the National Football League.
All right, next game, was a very shocker, and I didn't think Washington was going to beat Green Bay, but at first, Green Bay was up 10-3 or 14-3. They had a big interception, pick six, and then they let Washington back in. Washington won 23-21. Both teams are 3-4. Packers are really on the decline right now. Rodgers isn't he isn't really taking a look at himself and saying I should be doing less. He's really missing his receivers. They're dropping passes anyway. They should be running the ball more with their two workhorses, but they aren't. Their defense is getting taxed because of all the offensive possessions going awry. So it's really awful when you think about it, the way that the Packers are playing. I mean, it looks like they're getting hit in the mouth and not doing anything about it. Rodgers did throw for 194 yards, but 2 touchdowns. But he threw he was 23 for 35. Tyler Heineke, who I've been vouching for, and it took Wentz to get hurt in order for him to start. He threw for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, which was a pick six, and he was sacked once. But these rushing numbers are really haunting for me for Green Bay. Aaron Jones only had 8 carries for 23 yards. A.J. Dillon, 4 carries for 15. And that just tells you they really abandoned the rushing game when they really needed it. And that was very tough to see. Lazard was the receiving leader with 55 yards. Aaron Jones did have 2 receiving touchdowns. So they're using him in other ways, but not the way you should. But maybe credit should go to the Washington defense for doing that. I think stopping them when they needed to really helped. As I mentioned, no picks for Rodgers, but he's really forcing the ball, and it shouldn't be happening that way. Robinson Jr., who was shot, before the season, he's come back and played. He had 20 carries for 73 yards. Gibson 59. McLaurin had a receiving touchdown as well as Gibson for Washington. And I did today that Terry McLaurin could have been a Packers first-round pick, but
what?
They haven't. In the past, they haven't really chosen a receiver. They really failed in that aspect of receiving, drafting who they should. They always went with someone else other from giving Rodgers receivers that they really need. And just think about this. Let's say they got a couple of receivers like McLaurin or whomever else. If they did that 3 or 4 years ago, they would be set without, Adams. But it looks like they're really missing Devontae Adams. Rodgers looking, like Father Time has hit him. He continues to fail. And the Packers keep abandoning the running game. And I think that's what happened. What did you think about Washington beating Green Bay yesterday?
You had to get the defenses the past 2 weeks against the Packers, where the Jets had a blocked punt, return for a touchdown. Quentin Williams looked phenomenal. Washington looked phenomenal. Before I really go, Carson Wentz is done as a starter in the NFL. We know there were 2 narratives for the Washington Commanders this season, James. This is Carson Wentz's last chance. Your second overall pick out of North Dakota State. You obviously took the team to 11-3 record, I believe. Ron Rivera was on the hot seat. Your defensive coordinator was on the hot seat because he has not produced. Chase Young's been injured all season. One of your other top defensive players is now helping on the sidelines, retired. So that defensive core never got a chance to stay together. Your head coach, frankly, is the most overrated head coach in the National Football League. I don't know. He hasn't done anything in many, many seasons. So he keeps getting a pass. So I swipe left on him. But this is the thing, James. The Green Bay Packers didn't draft Jordan Love in 2020 for no reason. They were sick of Rodgers and wanted to start fresh and get a new quarterback. But instead, they give in to peer pressure and his toxicity as a quarterback, feed it to that, and boom, you give him a new contract. And so now he's 26th in QBR. Even with Devontae Adams, they never won a big playoff game. They've lost against San Francisco twice, even with Devontae Adams. They lost multiple NFC Championship games, even with Devontae Adams. Do I believe in certain plays and games? Yes, there's no doubt. The question, he missed Devontae Adams. But having Devontae Adams was not going to help him win a Super Bowl. Obviously, Devontae is not necessarily having the greatest time in Vegas. They're 2-4, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. The Green Bay Packers, I didn't pick them to win a division because I said, missing Devontae Adams, yes, is going to be a big deal in certain moments. Is that going to help you win the NFC? No. Are you going to get to the Super Bowl? No. But here's the thing, your offense is playing terrible. Like he said, 8 carries. You paid him over $50 million. And what do you expect? You get Matt LaDudu from the Tennessee Titans, who had the 6th worst offense with Marcus Mariota. So if you have the 6th worst offense with Marcus Mariota, and somehow that's going to translate to the Green Bay Packers with a top 5 offense and win the Super Bowl. How does that logic make any sense? Clearly, the Packers have been wanting to move on from Rodgers. Rodgers, I don't know him as a person, but as a quarterback, he is toxic for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is holding back the Green Bay Packers from any potential they can ever have. You tell me, as an offensive decision maker, you give the running back, both running backs combined, less than 25 carries. In a season where Rodgers is 26th in QBR, that's going to win you. That's going to win you the division. That's why myself and others pick the Vikings, because they have Justin Jefferson, they have Thielen, they have Dalvin Cook, they have Alex Madison, they have some veteran defensive players on the defensive front line. The Packers are washed. Aaron Rodgers, regardless of his head fault or not, the Packers have been the most overrated team in the past 10 years. What have they done as an organization since that Super Bowl win? Charles Woodson went back to the Raiders. Clay Matthews a few years later went to Vegas. After that didn't work out, then he retired, I think, officially just a while back. Rodgers in the city, there's no excuse. You cannot give me an excuse. Zach Wilson was in his second week back. The Jets were back in their second week with their starting quarterback, who they drafted second overall in last year's draft. And that's their value. You lost to a backup quarterback. You can't say, oh, he has Terry McLaurin. They have the tight end. It's not like Tyler Heineke, practice with the number 1 guys all of this week and all of last week because Carson was got to be injured. No, Rivera's going to lose his job. Carson Wentz is done. Jack Del Rio as the defensive coordinator is done. I think in the offseason for the Packers, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable decisions to make. What I am sick and tired in the sports media chains is the excuses we are giving certain guys because we don't want to piss them off. What I'm talking about, what you're talking about, is them as a player, not as a person. Aaron Rodgers is holding this team back. Aaron Rodgers has no right to complain about the Green Bay Packers not getting him the weapons when you continuously take those big record-breaking contracts. Taking those record-breaking contracts prohibits you from trading for other players in free agency, prohibits you from trading for other players before the deadline, November 2nd at 1 p.m. or November 1st. The only option you have is the draft. They wanted to get rid of you. So why would the Packers re-sign Aaron Rodgers to another deal? Aaron Rodgers is not going to pass for me whatsoever. This week, 65.7 completion percentage. Last week, 63.4. You scored 10 points against the Jets. In the last 2 weeks, you scored a combined total of 31 points. 15 points per game in the last 2 games. If Aaron Rodgers is this great thrower of the football, this great elite quarterback, why can't he work at least with some of what he has? That's what we talked about with Brady up until obviously what's happening now. Not saying he never had any weapons, but if we're talking about Aaron Rodgers this and Aaron Rodgers that, the problem is, like you say with Brady and so many other quarterbacks, when they win, he gets the credit. But when they lose, it's everybody else. It's the head coach. It's the defensive coordinator. It's the lack of receivers. It's the offensive coordinators. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you have a lot more say in the offense in the organization. So there's no way Aaron Jones should have had 8 carries. Aaron Jones had less carries than he had guaranteed dollars in his contract this year. Absolutely insane. No excuse. Aaron Rodgers gets no pass for me. 26 QBR. Packers have a lot to figure out this next week.
Well, speaking of outdated and quarterbacks not playing well, Tom Brady and his Bucs came to Carolina, and I thought, they're going to win easy. Nope.
Sorry, that was funny because I thought that too.
Carolina won 21-3. They go to 2-5 with PJ Tucker starting for him now. The Bucs go to 3-4, but they look like the 2-5 team in that NFC South. This I'm not even a rivalry. I'm not going to call it a rivalry. They just happen to be divisional opponents. Tom Brady threw for 290 yards through 49 times. No touchdowns, no picks, but he was sacked once. And there was about 4 times where his receivers let him down. I know Evans had a chance to score.
It was their
a
first
long
drive.
pass, and he dropped it.
Right, because they had a screen pass to Godwin to set it up. They had a deep ball downfield to the receiver. The quarterback for the Carolina Panthers stripped and fell. Mike Evans had it but dropped it. I think tried to dive to get it, but that I think would have definitely set up a good first quarter for the Bucs.
Yeah, instead they got behind, and right away after the first quarter, the Panthers put up 3 touchdowns. On the ground, though, they're not getting too much help, and if your receivers are dropping balls, if your running game isn't running well like it isn't, you're not going to win. White had 24 yards. Fournette, who has basically disappeared, had 19 yards rushing. Mike Evans had 9 receptions for 96 yards, but he could have had a lot more along with Godwin. That was really awful to experience, especially if you went to that game. There's a lot of empty seats, though, from what I saw. P.J. Walker threw for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked once. So that was good to see. And then Carolina's running back, which I've never heard of, but his name is Deontay Foreman. I think he was a former Texan back. He drafted in 2017.
He came out of Texas. That's how I know him, Deontay Foreman.
I knew he sounded familiar.
He played with Sam Ehlinger in college.
Wow. He had a big game, and 15 carries, 118 yards. I thought the main thing for the Bucs that they were going to stop the run, so Tucker or what's his name? PJ Walker would have to throw, but they couldn't stop anything pretty much. Hubbard did have the rushing touchdown for Carolina. DJ Moore and Tremble both had receiving touchdowns. Moore led the Panthers with 69 yards receiving. And he seems to me the main focal point for the Carolina offense, although they might trade him. And I think he could go to Green Bay or wherever to help the offense out. That's one of the guys I know we'll be talking later about receivers that might be traded, and he's one name I want to throw in there. But this was more about Brady and the Bucs not executing or dropping passes. Whatever the case was, they lost to Carolina really bad here, 21-3. What did you think about the Brady and the Bucs losing to the Panthers?
Speaking of cases, divorce case number 486, March 2023. I told people this. You don't, a quarterback, when he asked for 2 weeks off in training camp, when that's the most important part of the offseason, that you don't do that for no reason. P.J. Walker nearly had as many passing touchdowns as the Bucs did total points. Think about that. P.J. Walker nearly had as many touchdowns as the Bucs did total points. You cannot give me an excuse for Brady. At what point, and I said this for any quarterback, especially guys that have been level of elite, that have won Super Bowls or been to multiple Super Bowls, won MVPs, all that. Why is it when guys like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, or like, let me say Josh Allen, he's won a lot of games, but like Lamar Jackson or Brady or a couple other quarterbacks, bless you, or Coffee, or whatever, is this. When they win, oh, look at Brady. He made that throw. Look at Tom Brady this. But when they lose, it's everybody else. Mm-hmm. Excuses are like unwiped buttholes. Nobody wants to see, hear, smell, or talk about it. There's no excuse why the Bucs could have scored 3 points. Yes, I do think Mike Evans not catching that ball for the easiest touchdown of almost his career, that would have set it up. But overall, do I think they would have won a game? No. I picked them to win. But I'm saying that what we're seeing with Tampa Bay is that what we thought, or a lot of us thought, it's going to be wide open. Or not wide open. The Bucs are going to win the division. They're going to have a winning record. Tom Brady is now experiencing division divorce from the Bucs and from Giselle. At some point, I tell you, it's for any guy. Anything that's happening off the field significantly is going to affect your play on the field. When you allowed it Wednesdays off every single week, that's the most pivotal day of the week for your team to practice. And you're just walking out, going to do whatever. Because, it's Tom Brady, he can do it. No, you're not. You signed a contract with this team. Why are we giving passes to quarterbacks? Because, we want to be buddy-buddy with everybody. It's the Los Angeles LeBron, not the Los Angeles Lakers. At some point, you have to tell the truth. Tom Brady, at least through the first 7 weeks, is playing awful football. If I look at his stats right now, this is why some people look at individual things. Tom Brady, I believe, right now is 14th in QBR, 16th in touchdowns. So in touchdowns and QBR, he's in the middle of the pack. He's playing average. Why is he getting a pass? 53.2 QBR in the year. Like, are you kidding me? This is a pathetic. This is Tom Brady's worst game of his career. He had the worst game in terms of certain stats since 2002. Oh, no, the first losing record, I think, since 2002. 20 years, crazy. But at some point, I think what we do is certain places, look what he did in the past and look at him. No, the past is the past for a reason, James. We're looking at it right now, and the Bucs are 3-4. How do you lose against Mitchell Trubisky? You back-to-back weeks, you lost against backup quarterbacks. What's the excuse? Mitchell Trubisky didn't even play the whole game, and he came back and won the game for y'all. Like, what excuse is it now? That was because I'm not giving him excuse for what's happening off the field. I wish him nothing but the best. But I'm saying, and you here, James, anything in our lives, what's happening outside of work or off the football field, it's going to affect your play on the field. Stop with the excuses. Tom Brady and the Bucs are washed right now. I do believe they are in trouble. And it's not like a thing where with the Bucs, they'll be fine to get a couple games under their belt. James Gonzalez, week 1 was a perfect example. They should have lost against the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. That Bucs defense bailed them out. And what people will do, and maybe I've been guilty of this in the past, is they would play terrible most of the game. Tom Brady makes that one game to fire and throw. Oh, look what Tom Brady did. What about the first 3 quarters? Because like Shannon Sharp and so many other assists, it's a 4-quarter game. It's not like Madden where you can send to 2 or 3 quarters or change anything else. It's a 4-quarter game. When are we going to hold Tom Brady responsible for not playing well? Why are we giving him a pass? It's, oh, we want to be buddy-buddy. We want to get the excuses. At some point, it is about bringing your reporting together to bring people closer to the world of football. But when you're giving guys passes, this isn't Tinder. You can't give him passes. Swipe left on Brady. Brady is not a great quarterback this year. I'm sorry. I'm done with the excuses. He is washed. And I think at some point, this is where it's tough for quarterbacks or players. Knowing when to retire. Should have done it like Ray Lewis. When he retired after winning the Super Bowl. You should have retired after you won the Super Bowl. 7. Like, what is the point? Like, I get you say no retirement in your future, but you lose against Richard Trubisky and PJ Walker. And look at the NFC South before I give it back to you. I know there's a lot to say, but I want to make sure we're holding every player accountable. Tom Brady does not get a pass. 3-4, 3-4, 2-5, 2-5. Tom Brady is not playing good football. And enough of the excuses. I don't care if he's Tom Brady. I don't care if he's Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if he's Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott or Jared Goff or any other quarterback. No excuses. I'm putting my foot down.
So let's get let's get positive here. From one of the worst stories and disappointing stories in the league to one of the best for now. The New York Giants, who came in to Jacksonville, had a lot of blue in the stands. They defeated the Jaguars 23-17. The Giants are 6-1 somehow. The Jaguars, kind of just like the Lions, have gone from that good, heartfelt story to, that's where they're supposed to be, at 2-5. And the Giants, it seemed like, did it with their strengths, which, defense and rushing. Daniel Jones did throw for 202 yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked once. Barkley on the ground, 24 carries, 110 yards. Jones did run for a touchdown. Darius Slayton caught a pass for a touchdown. He had 3 receptions for 58 yards. Trevor Lawrence, 310 yards passing. No touchdowns or picks. He wasn't sacked at all. Etienne on the ground had 14 carries for 114 yards and 1 touchdown. Lawrence also ran for a touchdown as well. Christian Kirk led the Jaguars with 7 receptions and 96 yards. But it really wasn't enough. And it was good to see the Giants win. Unfortunately, though, they do lose Evan Neal. He's out 3 to 4 weeks. He's an important part on that offensive line with an MCL injury. He was carted off in Jacksonville. That was really tough to see. And that's really tough to see for the Giants. I think both New York teams lost significant people yesterday. More the Jets did than the Giants, but we'll get to that. What did you think of the upstart Giants defeating the Jaguars yesterday?
Brian DeBall, through the first 7 weeks, has gotten my head coaching candidate of the year. I mean, you're unlocking something in Daniel Jones that we have not seen in his college career at Duke or in the NFL. I mean, my God, this guy had, I'm pretty sure, more rushing yards yesterday than Saquon. Or at least nearly the same amount, over 100 rushing yards on the day. How does that happen, James? I mean, tell me, like, if we're looking at yesterday, all right, yesterday he had, let's look at Giant, and I will give the Giants credit. That defense made the biggest play of the game when the Jaguars could have gone into the end zone, get the extra point, they would have won, and 24-23. Instead, with just like the Titans and Rams Super Bowl, you're so close, Eddie George, yet they're just a few yards short. The defense made the plays when they need to. And I don't know what Brian DeBall is doing during the week, but whatever he's doing, he needs to keep it up. Daniel Jones, 19-30, 202 yards, and a touchdown. Daniel Jones had more yards per carry than Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones. If I were to tell you this at the beginning of the year, you would think I was crazy. Just during one game this season, Daniel Jones had 11 carries, 107 yards, and a touchdown. If I were to tell you that before the season, you would think I'm what?
Crazy.
I mean, the opening offensive plays has been a struggle for the Giants the past couple of years. Obviously, Saquon not being healthy kind of is definitely a determining factor because that opens up the passing lane. Yes, Daniel Jones did fall on his feet, which could have been another big rushing play. That's literally, I'm pretty sure his uncle is Humpty Dumpty. That's neither here nor there. But the Giants are for real through the first 7 weeks. Again, I'm not saying all year anything can happen, but right now, the Giants, I don't know what it pointed to because Saquon, I would give him credit. We'll look at Saquon and his numbers, and then I can kind of break it down. But I think Saquon, when he runs the ball,
Remember, he's a free agent after this season, so he's going for the bag.
they both are. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
They declined Daniel Jones' fifth-year option, and they didn't give Saquon Barkley's playing at his fifth-year option. So that's where it's tough, James, because if I'm Brian DuBall and you keep this up and you make the playoffs, and let's say you contend, well, you don't win a game or win a game, you're going to re-sign both of them to the bag. But the problem is you drafted in the first round last year. There's Kadarius Toney, and he's been a bust. What's his name? Not Baldwin. There's another receiver for the shoot. What's his name?
Shepard,
another guy that played with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. What's his name? Kenny Galladay.
Kenny Galladay needs to send Matthew Stafford an early Christmas present because he made
Got him
him
the
look
money.
good in Detroit. I mean, this is it's so weird. I just can't imagine. Saquon is just this team is phenomenal. When Saquon has at least 70 plus rushing yards, they're winning every single game.
Yeah.
So, and that's the rest we're seeing. He runs the ball a lot, and we're seeing Daniel Jones be mobile. What is this football team? I don't know exactly what they wanted to, but Brian DuBall, unlike Cliff Kingsbury, Brian DuBall is a better leader for the Giants than Cliff Kingsbury is for the Arizona Cardinals.
No doubt.
Even when, I guarantee you, Daniel Jones and Saquon and Brian DuBall are arguing a lot during the week, and there are certain moments where hey, screw you bleep, 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 bleep.
Calm down.
That doesn't calm the but that doesn't get to the media. That doesn't get to the outside. That's what, just like the Draymond said, some things need to stay in-house.
Yeah.
And that's the point of, I apologize for interrupting you, but it's just so weird because Saquon Barkley, 726 yards on the year, over 5 yards a carry, 143 rushing. Saquon Barkley could be offensive. He's in the candidate for offensive player of the year. If he keeps this up 7 games, okay, he could have nearly 1,600 yards at the end of the year and 10 plus touchdowns. Saquon Barkley is bad. He's not only second in rushing yards, he's top 7 in rushing touchdowns, and he's first in attempts. And guarantee us to the offensive line, he's out for a couple weeks. The Giants are also the team where they've tried to draft 5, 6 plus different offensive linemen in the past couple of years, and it's failed. You traded for, I think it was Nate Solder from the Patriots. It didn't work. So they're going to have a lot of work. But if the Giants make the playoffs, or at least win a division, make the playoffs, even if they don't win the game, they're okay. You got your running back and quarterback locked in. They're going to pay him. Therefore, in the draft, the Giants will have to address the offensive line and certain pieces on the defense. But overall, it's just weird to say Daniel Jones had over 100 rushing yards on the day. Daniel Jones had more yards per carry than Saquon Barkley. That's how crazy James' NFL season has been so far.
I think they're the main focus on all the chaos that's going on in the good way, I guess. AFC North matchup, you had Baltimore holding on to beat Cleveland 23-20. Baltimore now 4-3, tied with the Bengals, I believe, for the first place spot. The Browns at 2-5. I mean, hey, the Ravens tried to give this game up. They really tried, but Baltimore held on. Their defense, for once, held on to a ball game. Jacoby Brissett for the Browns did what he could. He had 258 yards passing. He was sacked, though, 5 times. And that's what I meant by the Ravens defense finally doing the job. I can't remember last time the Ravens had 5 sacks in the game. You have to go back a while, I think.
Was Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed, and Willis, probably. That defense back in the day when they allowed only 9 points a game against their offense.
Yeah. Nick Chubb had 16 carries with 91 yards and 1 touchdown. Hunt had a touchdown rushing. Amari Cooper had 3 receptions for 74 yards. Njoku had 71 along with Donovan Peoples-Jones, excuse me. Lamar Jackson had 120 yards passing. He was sacked 3 times. He had 59 yards rushing. Gus Edwards had 2 touchdowns rushing. DeVarn Way had 2 receptions for 42 yards. Bateman had 4 for 42. So, both teams basically did on the ground, but defense was the key for the Ravens, and that was so awesome to see from Baltimore. I mean, that's the way you win games, not lose them. So I know that sounds so cliche, but that's what literally happened for Baltimore, and it was great to see. So what did you think about the Ravens holding on this time for a win over Cleveland?
Also, then we want to bring out David Njoku is going to miss his ankle injury the next 2 to 5 weeks. Because it's interesting that because David Njoku was a starter for the Browns, and came back into Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper 1 year later is already gone, I believe, to the Colts. But this is a big deal for the Browns because yesterday, Jacoby Brissett was a better passer than Lamar Jackson. I think what the Ravens are going to have to do a lot of thinking this offseason. You drafted J.K. Dobbins in the second round in 2020. There's 2020, I believe. Yes. So you drafted him in the second round. He has been injury prone his entire career, his first 2 years so far. Lamar Jackson's under his 5th-year option. Gus Edwards got you 2 touchdowns over 4 yards a carry, with Lamar Jackson having 59 rushing yards on the day with nearly 6 yards a carry. But you can't have that expecting to win a division. Like I said, I think the next couple weeks for the AFC North is going to determine quarterback decisions, obviously, and who may win the division. I'm sorry. Lamar Jackson played terrible yesterday. Like I understand your best receiver is like a rookie. I believe if I'm looking right here, your tight end played. Mark Andrews didn't play at all. So I don't know if he was hurt. Let me see. Look it up. Mark Andrews, I don't believe was hurt. All right, so he played, but
he wasn't a factor at all.
He had no receptions. He's their number 1 weapon. Literally over a week and a half ago on Sunday Football, there were 6 total receptions, 6 straight first downs in a row. That's insane, and a touchdown on that drive. How is your number 1 weapon not getting the job done? I truly think if it doesn't work out with Lamar, you could go to the Colts. Because Matt Ryan's done. 1 year with Phillip Rivers, done. Not even half a season, Matt Ryan, done. 1 season with Carson Wentz, done. 1 season with Jacoby Brissett, done. As a receiving with the Colts and the GM and the quarterback, 1 and done. I don't know. I mean, I give the Ravens credit. They won this football game. Lamar Jackson only completed like 55% of his passes. 9 of 16 for 120 yards. You can't give me an excuse. Okay, you had your fullback. You had Gus Edwards. Kenny Drake can get the ball. Kenny Drake had no receptions. So you could, like you say, you don't have the weapons. You have your rookie receiver. You have your main weapon as your tight end. Your 2 running backs, Gus Edwards and Kenny Drake, can't get involved in the passing game. So there's no reason why Lamar Jackson should have only 120 passing yards in the game. Jacoby Brissett had a better arm than you yesterday. Do we think Jacoby Brissett in general has a better arm? No. But specifically for this game, Jacoby Brissett played better than you. Lamar Jackson is 20th in passing yards. He's also, everything else. I mean, he's tied 30th for interceptions, but he is average at best in terms of his passing yards. And you can't say Lamar Jackson this, Lamar Jackson that. If Lamar Jackson can make plays, how come he only had 9 completed passes? Literally a week ago, 6 for 6, no pun intended, Trevor Show here, go check that out, is against Mark Andrews, with Mark Andrews. And there is no excuse for Lamar Jackson. But if I'm Lamar, you're representing yourself, you're doing what you can, with what you feel like you don't have. If I'm Lamar, screw Baltimore. I'm going as a free agent in the offseason. He's never going to get $300 million plus signing. So, honestly, man, I give the credit. They won the game, but if they expect to get to the playoffs, win a division, and contend for a Super Bowl, much less a nation championship game, as I look at their numbers, Lamar Jackson cannot run the ball that many times and expect them to win a division. I'm sorry. But yet again, the AFC North is Joe Burrow is playing better football than them. They can say the weapons regardless, because some people say, oh, because he has weapons. Well, these are some of the same people that I believe, James, were saying Joe Burrow, the Bengals are washed. They had a fluke season. They're 4-3, 13 touchdowns, 1 pick since that week 1 performance. So that was up 2 of your main weapons. But again, at the end of the day, you have to work with what you have. And to me, there are no excuses for Lamar Jackson in this Ravens team. But I wish him the best. I hope Lamar Jackson gets paid because I want him to get – it's wish him nothing but success. But 9-16 for 120 yards, no touchdowns, no excuse, man, no excuse.
Next game was another surprise in their record-wise. The Jets win 16-9 in Denver. Jets are now 5-2. Denver's 2-5 and in last place, thankfully. Russell Wilson was out with a lat injury, among other things. His sandwich was discontinued at Subway. I think that was...
Now that's dangerous. Broncos country. Oh, no.
That was bad news.
I mean, honestly, why did they give him 2 commercials for his... How did he earn that? You're not a Tom Brady. You're not a Mahomes. You're not a Josh Allen. You're not a Lamar Jackson. How are you getting these – first of all, Subway in terms of sandwich shops Subway is like the Kirk Cousins of sandwich shops. But somehow he got – you want another – no, I'm Russell Wilson. I don't want to have your sandwich because then my career's over.
Yeah. So Brett Rippon was in for the Broncos. He threw for 225 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 sack, or he was sacked once. Melvin Gordon, who was non-existent basically on the bench last week, he had 11 carries for 33 yards only. Latavius Murray had a touchdown rushing. Jerry Jeudy, who we'll talk about later, led the Broncos for 96 yards and 7 receptions. So not much for the Broncos offensively, and you expect that. Zach Wilson had 21 yards passing, and Bryce Hall, unfortunately, who will miss the rest of the season with an ACL injury.
Man.
That hurts. 4 rushes for 72 yards. He did have a touchdown. Michael Carter, who will carry the load now, had 29 yards rushing and also 45 yards receiving. They're one team that definitely has to go out and make a trade. And not only did they lose Bryce Hall, but they lost Alijah Vera Tucker, a big offensive line piece for the season as well. They will get Elijah Moore back, the receiver there. Receiver. He'll be active week 8 versus New England. Big divisional game. He won it out, basically. But I don't think he can find another place to be. But if they're still thinking that they're going to be contending for a playoffs wildcard spot, the Jets, I think, have to go out and try to get a running back. And I've been thinking of, trying to think of where to get one.
Cam Akers.
Yeah, but he's not really putting up a lot of numbers that you can back up, though.
Well, you would have Cam Akers with Michael Carter. So essentially you have like that 1-2 punch duo. But
in a new system. Yeah, in a new system, maybe Akers can do well. And, the Rams just want to unload him because he's non-existent in their offense. But despite the hardships of the Jets yesterday, losing their 2 key players for the season, They win 16-9 against Denver. Denver looking awful. What do you think about that game?
This is rough, man, because I truly think Brees Hall was in contention for Offensive Player of the Year. I'm looking at his numbers. This guy already was solidifying what he could be in the NFL. With the Jets also losing one of their offensive linemen for the season, this is really going to hurt him because, as you know, Zach Wilson hasn't done anything else. Like in the games that he's played, he hasn't necessarily done much at all. But honestly, man, look at the Jets. Brees Hall was on pace to have over 1,000 yards on the season. And the last time I believe the Jets had a 1,000-yard rusher, I'm correct me if I'm wrong, look at, I believe it's Chris Ivory or Matt Forte. I want to look this up, folks, because I want nothing but the truth. I want the truth here. Chris Ivory, I believe, let's look at his stats. Chris Ivory, we know he played with the Jets with Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2015. So, yeah, he had 1,000 yards in 2015. Let me check with Matt Forte, though, because I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly. But overall, he was going to be the main part of their offense. And you have, of course, Michael Carter helping out with some carries here and there. Michael Carter could be also used in the red zone. But now with – now you're going to have to give the load to Michael Carter. There's a reason why you drafted Brees Hall. But looking back at Matt Forte did – okay. So their last 1,000-yard rusher, if I remember, was Chris Ivory. Chris Ivory. I mean, come on. This guy is not a legit football player. So Brees Hall was on, and that's just not pace. He was almost like, I wouldn't say like Jonathan Taylor, but like in terms of the impact in certain games or moments, is similar to Jonathan Taylor. But it's really unfortunate. Jets cannot catch a break, man. Because I think at some point, if they do keep winning games despite their offensive line injuries and Brees Hall, you're going to have Zach Wilson's going to get exposed more at what happens when he starts making mistakes. Robert Saleh is coaching for his job each and every individual game. He's saving his job every single week. But with those two key injuries, James, like I said, running backs for the Jets have been they've been here and there, but they've been pivotal, if that's a word, in the past couple in their offense the past couple of times here and there. But, I mean, this is just after the Broncos. You knew Russell Wilson wasn't going to be playing. I even had the Jets beating the Broncos, even with Russell Wilson. I'm sorry. Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, James, that Sunday Night Football game we were talking and joking about, when I checked that game out for the first time as I was leaving work, Broncos had a total of 5 points. Russell Wilson is not that guy. The only thing that's dangerous is that the Broncos are out $245 million. Like, honestly, I give the Jets credit, man. It was an ugly win. But if I want to tell you, James, that start the season, Zach Wilson could be out for the year, but instead he's going to miss a couple of games, and the Jets are going to be in contention for the playoffs. And you would think, John, you would think that exactly. So the AFC East right now, 5-1, 5-2. Patriots are the worst team in that division.
Wow.
Like literally 5-1, 5-2, 4-3, 3-3. And 2 backup quarterbacks so far have played a game or two this season. With the Patriots backup Blaine Zappi, or I can't remember the complete name. And then obviously Teddy Bridgewater played a game there and played well, but lost to my Bengals. But honestly, dude, I think this division is wide open. The Bills and the Jets have the same number of wins right now, at least through week 7. How crazy is for that to happen? Like, I just genuinely cannot imagine. But here's congratulations to the Jets. You win the game, but honestly, at what cost?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough sledding. In the desert, the Raiders get a win for once. They defeat the Houston Texans 38-20. Las Vegas goes to 2-4. The Texans 1-4-1. Unfortunately, the Raiders they let them in the game. It wasn't until the fourth quarter till they took them out. It was 10-10 at the half. Houston then led at the end of the third quarter, and then the Raiders scored 21 late in the fourth quarter. Josh Jacobs ran for 3 touchdowns. He also is in the contract year and running like it. He had 20 carries for 143 yards with those 3 touchdowns. Derek Carr threw for 241 yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked once. Devontae Adams had 8 receptions for 95 yards, had some very important catches. Mac Hollins did have a receiving touchdown as well. Davis Mills threw for 302 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked once and did throw 1 pick six to Harmon, and Harmon's been a big part of the Raiders' defense this year so far. But Davis Mills, you could tell, if given a bad defense for him to play against, he'll put some numbers up. And then Dameon Pierce, who's been a great player this year, maybe the MVP for Houston. He had a good rushing game there with 20 carries for 92 yards. Burkhead, just 8 yards reception or rushing. Atkins led the way, 3 receptions for 68 yards for Houston. Cooks only 4 for 46. Dorsett and Moore had the only touchdowns there for the Texans. Again, defense did it finally for the Raiders after letting the Texans in. It was good to see the Raiders finally win a game. And you figured that coming in, this kind of felt like the Denver game again with the Raiders, where you knew that they were going to win, but you knew how difficult it was going to be because of the Raiders' faults. But what did you think about Houston losing to Las Vegas?
As I'm pulling it, I'm not sure I'm doing the math right. Devontae Adams in the last 2 games has 11 receptions for a total of 219 yards. So slowly but surely, and 2 touchdowns. So we're starting to see small, like you said, improvement. Like you talked about with the head coach of the NFL, we're starting to see some improvement at that connection in terms of numbers between Devontae Adams and Derek Carr. Now let's see if that continues to translate to more and more wins. Davis Mills is not the guy. I mean, my gosh, you don't go for it on 4th down to win the game in overtime. But obviously, the Texans are in rebuild mode. But honestly, after this past week, I know people were criticizing Devontae to a certain extent. I get it, but let's not make. But I do think, to a certain extent, the camera guy was obviously milking it. You can't I'm not defending what Devontae did. I think he owned up to it. And I have nothing but respect for him. But you're telling me you're going to the hospital because you're really hurt. Just because your butt hurt doesn't mean you actually have to go. I've been butt hurt plenty of times because I've had spicy food. But you don't see me going to the hospital. Like at some point, I get it. Like it was a mistake, but to go to the hospital because you're hurt and damages. The only thing that was damaged is your emotions in that individual moment. But for the Raiders here, you had to win against Houston because your loss against Kansas City these last couple of weeks has been really, really tough. You've had 21 receptions for, 320 yards in the past. So Devontae Adams, the past 3 weeks, is averaging over 100 yards and 3 to 4 receptions. So now you have to translate that to wins. Now you have to get the ball down the field. You have to figure out the defenders. You have to see what you can do to make different offensive packages here. But with Dameon Pierce, man, this is why, and I say this again, you don't need to draft a running back in the first round to have a great running back. Up into the injury, look at Breece Hall. He was their best running back since Chris Ivory in terms of rushing yards. Dameon Pierce, I believe, folks, was the 4th round pick, 107th overall. He is top 6 in rushing yards and top 7 in attempts, and has 3 touchdowns on the year. Finally, for the first time since Arian Foster, the Texans have a decent running game. And I know we haven't heard that name in a long time.
Wow.
A long time. Again, if you've been people have been watching the NFL longer than Blockbuster's been dead, then you kind of know, you kind of get it. But I think he's really going to be a focal point for this team. Now, I will find interesting, with the Texans, you go to the 2023 draft, Dameon Pierce's mobility in terms of the running and passing attack you get that mobile quarterback, there could be some big plays for the Texans next year. But for this game, this is a rebuild year. I think the NFL and NBA says they were looking into tanking. But honestly, like, even if they are, and they are, you're the media asking the question, like, what's the point? Was it head coach? Yeah, we're tanking. Our team sucks. I don't believe in Ryan Tannehill. I don't believe no. But I give Daniel Pierce, he has proved a lot. I didn't pick him to be top 6 in rushing yards or have over 100 attempts on the year so far, a 4th-round pick. What we're seeing now this past couple of years is that just because you're a first-round pick, just because you're a first overall pick, doesn't mean or guarantee your success. Look at Baker Mayfield. For the first couple of weeks, his QBR was 15. And he got replaced by a XFL quarterback, my XFL Houston Roughnecks, which are back in 2023 in February. Can't wait for more football. But you got replaced by a guy who has had such a hard start, undrafted rookie free agent, got a chance to play again in the NFL. Oliver Luck, former, owner of the XFL, so it's awesome by that. But I think for the Texans, even though it's a losing season, you're getting some type of the taste or interest of, hey, this is kind of how our offense is going to be in 2023 and beyond, knowing, even though we're not going to say it to the media, that Davis Mills is your guy. But, the Raiders, they have to get this win, because if you don't get this win, I doubt Derek Carr is there after 2023.
Well, they're stuck in a big contract, long contract, though, with the Raiders. I don't think they want to eat all that money. But we'll find out.
They can convert some of that back into incentives. Therefore, they can trade him. But I don't know. I'm not a GM. I don't understand all that stuff.
I think they're just stuck with him, and however they go. And let's get to a West Coast battle. Seattle facing the Chargers in Inglewood. Both teams are now 4-3. The Seahawks pretty much led this game the whole way. They win 37-23. And I don't know if it's injury concerns for the Chargers coming in. They've had them all year, honestly, but they didn't play so well. And I know Herbert is fully healthy, but they let Seattle run all over them. The score was 23-14 at the half. Seattle able to score 13 more. The Chargers got 9 in the 4th, but it wasn't enough. And then Geno Smith, you have to give him credit. It was 24-27, 210 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He was sacked once. The biggest story of the day, though, was Kenneth Walker III, the Michigan State running back who was drafted in the 2nd round in this year's draft by Seattle. In which, you think about it, this year's draft for Seattle, they hit on a lot of good players. It was almost like the 2012 draft where they hit on a lot of players.
Mm-hmm.
They did the same thing here in this draft, where a lot of key spots were taken care of, at least for now. And they have more picks to come because of Denver and that Russell Wilson trade.
I'm sorry.
Just think about where the Broncos pick is right now.
Seattle won the trade.
Yeah. And for years to come, too. That Bronco pick is definitely a top 10 pick when you think about it. But Walker III had 23 carries, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns. A Charger defense usually doesn't get run upon like that, but it really did yesterday. Goodwin, the receiving leader for Seattle, had 4 receptions, 67 yards. Marquise Goodwin, who's been bouncing around for years, had 2 touchdowns yesterday for the Seahawks. Lockett there did play. He had 7 for 45. The unfortunate thing, DJ Metcalf, I don't think will be out for the year, but he sustained a pretty bad injury there. Justin Herbert threw 51 times. He felt like he had to come back the whole game. He threw for 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 picked, and he was sacked 3 times. Austin Eckler had 31 yards on the ground rushing with 1 touchdown. In the air, Austin Eckler was also the leading receiver for 96 yards and 1 touchdown. Mike Williams, who had a horrible-looking injury, also had a receiving touchdown. Gerald Everett, against his former team, had 63 yards receiving. Keenan Allen made his comeback. he only had 2 receptions for 11 yards. And I think the big news, injury-wise, for the Chargers coming out, today, was J.C. Jackson, who, from day one, it just seemed like he was never a fit there with the Chargers. But he finally got to play, and he made some plays last couple of weeks, but he suffered a knee injury, season-ending knee injury against the Seahawks. And that contract right now, not looking good for the Chargers. And there's 4 more years left, I believe, of it. So they're going to have to regroup from that. He was all pro with New England, but not now. And it was just a great win for Seattle. They continue to surprise people. Geno Smith not doing too much, but he's doing very well. And I think the surprise is definitely the Seahawks. They lead that division, the NFC West, which is a shock. But you just it's the chaos again of this season, of all 3 of those teams below them just underplaying, honestly. But what did you think about Seattle surprising the Chargers yesterday?
Honestly, James, and I just said this to you just because we were updated, DK Metcalf will not need knee surgery. So I think that really could be pivotal for him, because if not, at some point, we're going to see Geno Smith be Geno Smith. But Geno Smith, man, this guy, and this is what I give Emmanuel Oxford credit for showing this, which showed good coaching. When there's a flag against Seattle, Geno Smith is arguing and yelling at the ref, and Pete Carroll's like, calm down. Let's just back it up, because it could cause a lot worse of things than just that one play. And that's coaching right there, being able to correct your plays. So while it sucked, it was uncomfortable, that very next play, he had to pass for a first down. Would that have happened if Pete Carroll didn't do what he did? No. Geno Smith right now, oh my God, 11 touchdowns, 3. Geno Smith is my pick for MVP right now. What is this? He's one of my picks. 11 touchdowns. He is top 7 in passing yards, top 6 in passing touchdowns, top 6 in interceptions, 4th in QBR. He's playing like a top 7 quarterback in the National Football League. You had over 200 yards, 74 completion percentage, only 1 interception on the day. In the last 3 weeks, 5 interceptions, 1 pick. This guy, I don't know what happened. I think the Jets are like, hey, Geno, what the heck? Where was this football with the Jets, or that one game with the Giants when he plays Eli Manning? I mean, 20-27. It's not like he's doing like a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Cooper Rush type of thing. He's playing as a starter. 20-27 the week before, 20-31. There's 20-30, 32-44, 24-30, 23-38. When he's throwing the ball 20 or more times, he doesn't have a lot of incompletions. If I were to tell you, James, this stat, without saying his name, James, this quarterback has 1,700 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 picks, top 7 in passing yards, top 6 in passing touchdowns and interceptions, top 4 in QBR. Which quarterback would you say this would be?
That should be Russell Wilson.
Exactly. But it's Geno Smith. This is oh my God. I still can't believe it. The Seahawks pulled off a heist. It traded. I'm pretty sure first of all, I don't want to say Carson. Russell Wilson needs to work at a car wash because he's washed. I mean, at some point, this guy's a fraud. He's still running for Subway. Geno Smith is playing great. He's the best quarterback in his division. He's playing better. Geno Smith is playing better than Tom Brady in terms of passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and QBR for the most part. So at some point, what are we going to do? We're getting him a lot of credit. I give him that, because I think beginning of the year, we look at Seattle's offensive line the past couple of years. You traded for Dwayne Brown a couple of years ago. You traded away one of your starting tackles that went to the Houston Texans, and obviously it was a huge question mark. Geno Smith, if I'm going to tell you this James, this quarterback has 107.7 QBR. Who would it be? I'll give you two chances to guess.
I would think Justin Herbert.
but it's Geno Smith.
It's amazing.
Like, Geno Smith is playing and being more accurate than Justin Herbert. I was a Justin Herbert fan. I was a Justin Herbert defender. For James Austin and people that are watching, we'll watch this later. I am done with Justin Herbert. This guy is not going to win you a playoff game. This guy is not going to win you the division. I mean, I'm sorry. You had a chance to beat the Chargers. You threw an interception. You lost against the Jaguars. You lost against Geno Smith. You lost against Trevor Lawrence, Geno Smith. You threw a game-stealing interception. I mean, at some point, if this is not the writing on the wall, that Herbert, obviously he's going to be their guy. We're not questioning that. But in terms of like with Lamar Jackson, with Baltimore, with Philip Rivers and Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan with the Colts, he's not their guy. I hate to break that to you, but Justin Herbert is going to be – he's on the same career trajectory as Philip Rivers, just mobile. I don't know what it is about the Chargers, but Brandon Staley needs to be on the hot seat very, very soon. Yeah. How do you lose against the Chargers? 38-10? Brandon, like, I want to look at this now because this makes no sense. Like, the Chargers are let's see, the Chargers schedule. Literally, their last couple weeks, you barely beat the Broncos by 3 points. So you lost against Seattle. You barely beat the Broncos. You barely beat the Browns by the last 2 times when you won the past 3 weeks. You've only outscored them by like 2 or 3 points. Okay, then you only beat the Texans by 10 points. Texans nearly came back in that game. You lost against Jacksonville 38-10. Gave a single interception against the Chiefs. Every team they beat was by single digits. So if every team so far that you've beat has been by single digits, how is this team going to dominate and get to the playoffs? When you talk about teams like Mahomes or what you see with Brady or Allen or I guess was with Lamar Jackson for a couple of games, was being able to come back into games. And when the Chiefs were playing well, they weren't just beating teams by 3 or 4 points. They were blowing the roof off of them. They beat your Raiders only by 5 points.
I was there.
By 3 points. You lost against the Chargers by 28 points. You beat the Texans by 10 points. They nearly came back in that game. You barely beat the Broncos by 3. So if you can only beat the Broncos by 3 and you lose against Seattle and Trevor Lawrence, who hasn't figured it out just yet, how is this team even going to make the playoffs? I can't believe I said like others, the AC West, the toughest division of football. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be Carr. It's going to be Mahomes and yada, 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 and Herbert, yada, yada, yada. And right now, there's only one elite quarterback in that division. Mm-hmm. Like Derek Carr, he's kind of up and down. I think we'll see kind of how the season goes. But I try to tell people, Mahomes was not going to falter without Tyreek. He's going to be fine. And we're seeing this. We'll go back to the Derek Carr thing real quick. You're right about that. I think the only time they could release from him is they would have a dead cap of 34 in 2023. So 2026 is when their last chance. But at least they would still have 3 less years with him than Russell Wilson is with the Broncos. But honestly, the Chargers, this is the point. There were supposed to be a couple games this season that were going to be the standpoint of what we could expect or see what the Chargers could be. And that hasn't happened. You barely beat Denver. If you lose against Jacksonville, the Colts did it. So what is that? If the Colts lose against Jacksonville once this year, and you lose against them, when I had him as an MVP candidate, you cannot be, in my opinion, an MVP candidate if you lose against the Jaguars by 28. Every single opponent you beat by under 5 points or less, you won. Under 5 points or less. That's not screaming me a team that's going to have playoff success. What the Chiefs have done, what teams have done, their goals were, our goal is to beat the Chiefs. That means if you're saying your only goal, big goal, is to beat the Chiefs, that means the Chiefs are beating their opponents by more than just 4 or 5 points. I'm sorry. Justin Herbert would never win a Super Bowl with the Chargers. He'd be lucky to win a few playoff games. He's on the same trajectory. He's just like Philip Rivers, but more mobile and less kids. I'm sorry, but I don't know what the Chargers are doing, but clearly, part of it you can say could be coaching. Mentally, Justin Herbert is not there in terms of his quarterback decision making.
That curse just continues to go on, it seems like.
Exactly. If Geno Smith is making better decisions than you, especially on 3rd and 10 after that penalty, 5-yard penalty, like you lose against Jacksonville, your season's done. The Steelers also lost against Jacksonville in the playoff game. Like, I'm sorry. No excuses. If you cannot get to the playoffs, I'm sorry, you got drafted in 2020. All right, so next year is your last year of your rookie contract. I believe. So you got drafted in 2020, just like Tua.
Yeah.
So this year is your biggest season of your career. Because going into next year, you're going to have to figure out, hey, in 2024, are we going to pick up a fifth-year option? Let's see what you have done is that will show what you can or can't do for us in the future. So this season is important for the Chargers and also Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley, if they keep this up, he's going to be fine at the end of the season. I'm sorry, but he was never the guy. Wasn't he the coach last year when they lost against the Raiders? I mean, my God, it's like Herbert is not a clutch quarterback.
No. Speaking of a Western game interconference, the Kansas City Chiefs went to go play against the 49ers in Santa Clara. It was a good game at first. At halftime, it was 14-13 Kansas City. Then Kansas City basically flipped the switch and remembered who they were and went down and scored a bunch. They ended up scoring 30 points in the second half to San Francisco's 10 and won 44-23. Kansas City goes to 5-2. The 49ers go to 3-4. Pat Mahomes with 423 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and he was sacked once. Pacheco had the most yards rushing with 43. Carlos Edwards-Helaire had 1 rushing touchdown, and Hartman had 2 rushing touchdowns on those sweeps that they do so sweetly. Juju Smith-Schuster's been balling out the last couple of games. He had 7 receptions for 124 yards with 1 touchdown receiving. And Marcus Valdez-Scantling had his first big game with 3 receptions for 111 yards receiving. Hardman also had a catching touchdown, as well as Watson, the backup tight end. So they do it with everybody, it seems like, with Kansas City. Jimmy Garoppolo had 303 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He was sacked 5 times. I mean, he's got to get rid of the ball. But it seems like Jones and Ford were in there all the time for Kansas City. Jeff Wilson Jr. led the 49ers with rushing with 54 yards. Christian McCaffrey made his debut with the 49ers. He only had 38 yards rushing, and then receiving he had 24 yards. You didn't expect him to be much of a focal point with the offense right away when he just got there this week. So it'll start going. I know they play the Rams this week coming up, so I think he'll be more of a focal point later on. George Kittle led the receiving ways for San Francisco. He had 6 receptions for 98 yards, 1 touchdown. Ray McLeod III had a receiving touchdown as well. But it goes to show you all those doubters that Kansas City has had a couple of years now. They are being proven wrong. They're still the best in the AFC West and one of the best, along with the Buffalo Bills in the AFC. So what did you think about Kansas City breaking out and defeating the 49ers yesterday?
Jimmy Garoppolo, what are you doing? You had the game in your hands. All you had to do is march down the field, run the football, and get a field goal.
For most of that, you had a chance to get the ball. Jimmy Garoppolo is still making rookie mistakes. Like, well, I get the defenders are in your face. Throw the ball out of bounds. Take the sack. Because that interception, 2 interceptions he had in this game. I mean, my God, like, this guy would give you the most amount of false hope. And what I don't understand, though, is how can – I get, like, you're screwed because Jimmy Garoppolo, the season is free. He's going to be gone. Trey Lance is going to come out next year. Who knows if he's fully healthy? That's going to be his year before his last year of his rookie deal. You don't necessarily have a lot to work with in terms of like any film of what his strengths and weaknesses are as a starting quarterback. But my God, I'm sorry, but anybody that is still doubting Patrick Mahomes doesn't know football. I try to tell people, just because Tyreek Hill is gone doesn't mean their offense is non-existent. Does Kelsey doesn't exist? Does Hartman not exist? Does your first round running back in 2020, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not exist? I mean, when you can see outside of the numbers, the decisions Patrick Mahomes makes with whatever he has is freaking phenomenal. It's not just the amazing throws that he has or certain plays he makes, but he knows when and when not to throw something. And I don't know who would pick the Niners, who really thought, except that bias, that the Niners are going to win. Like, trading for Christian McCaffrey is not going to change their season. So that's what I'm not surprised the Chiefs won. The Chiefs so many times, people are like, oh, they're down by 17 or 25. That game is over. This all started in that playoff game against Houston. Oh, Houston's beating them. They're playing really well. That game's over. The Chiefs are a fraud. They came back and won the game and won the Super Bowl. So this is what the Chiefs are. You never count them out. Like I said, no passes through rating. Right now, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, and I have Josh Allen at number 2.
No doubt. The Sunday night game, man, it was good in the first half. Second half was just nothing at all. Miami held on to win 16-10. They're 4-3. The Steelers 2-5. They're really on the decline. They have to figure out, how Kenny Pickett's going to do in his rookie season and just ride that out. For Miami's defense, they did the job. Kenny Pickett 3 for 3 picks, 2 late ones that really hurt. I mean, they were in the territory of Miami, but could never score because of that defense of Miami. Really great to see. And I'm going to butcher his name, but Noah Igbanagani.
Don't worry, I butchered it. It's better than I want to say.
I had to give him a shout out because he was at Auburn and he got drafted of the first round in 2020. And he finally had a great moment yesterday. He had one of the best interceptions I've ever seen, where he was able to keep 2 feet in while in the air spinning, catching the interception, and getting the clutch interception in the end zone for Miami. It was really great to see. But Bethel had 6 tackles, 7 altogether, and he also had interception. And Holland had a big pick as well late in the fourth quarter. It's one of those growing pain games for Kenny Pickett. He did throw for 257 yards, 1 touchdown, but he was also sacked twice along with the 3 picks. Najee Harris had 65 yards rushing. Feeder Muth had 8 receptions for 75 yards. Pickett had a receiving touchdown, which was really nice to see, but they got to go to him more. He's got all the capability to be a feature receiver in the league, but he's got to get the ball. Tua Tagovailoa, who I didn't think he was going to play. I thought they were going to keep him out longer. It's really nerve-wracking to see him run, and he doesn't slide feet first. He goes head first. And I always knew. No. Right. I always knew as a kid from John Madden, hey, slide feet first, please. Do not go head first like Steve Young did. And you saw with all the concussions in his career, along with Troy Aikman, they had to retire before they wanted to. And Tua's kind of going down that path. There was a couple of runs yesterday where I'm thinking, oh God, he's going head first right into the Steeler defense. Anyway, he threw for 261 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks or no sacks, which was good to see. Mostert was 79 yards rushing. Jalen Waddle, 4 receptions for 80 yards. Hill had 7 for 72. Mostert also had a receiving touchdown. So that was good to see Mostert get more involved in the offense. I think they're going to really need that down the road, especially when you play Buffalo again in Orchard Park. I think that's going to be very important. But, Tua's playing for now. I just, man, the reason I just have so much worry is that, hey, he's got all the pride in the world, no doubt, but you got to be careful. Anyway, the Dolphins do win 16-10 over Pittsburgh. What did you think about that Sunday night game, John?
First of all, oh my God, that dude! Every time he ran, I was like, no! I literally wanted to be like this.
No.
Dude, run the football! Like literally, he said during there was a press conference during the week. He said when that happened during the Bengals game, of course, like week 4, week 5. He blacked out. He didn't remember a single thing.
Yeah.
Every time I saw him run, I mean, I thought they went pretty pass heavy in that first drive. I was like, oh, I thought they're gonna run a little bit more, let Mostert and obviously Chase Edmonds do their thing. Obviously they did, but through the air. And so I saw him get sacked a couple times. I'm like, oh my God, no. Like, what are you doing? But at the end of the day, the Steelers, we thought this game could show that Kenny Pickett, is he ready? And up until that last play, he was ready. But in the end, he threw the interception. It clearly shows he's still a rookie. He's still young. And he's still their guy. Like people say, oh, Kenny Pickett. No. Remember, Josh Allen, his rookie year, was pretty bad. But he evolved. MVP candidate. They're contenders for a Super Bowl. So, I mean, we'll just have to wait and find out. But
yeah,
this was a terrible game, though.
Yeah, the second half was really bad.
It was 16. I mean, I don't mind defensive games, but 16-10 was the first half, if I'm pretty sure.
Right.
So nobody scored in this. Like, this is the thing. I don't mind them like getting a guy like Najee Harris with him not getting a lot of care. TJ Watt is the factor for it. Chris Mayberry was sent it to the group chat, and here's what it said. Since drafting TJ Watt in 2017, the Steelers have ranked first, and first in sacks. Since week 2, without TJ Watt in the lineup, the Steelers rank 32 in sacks by a safe margin. Like, that to me is that, I mean, look at week 1 when they destroyed my Bengals. But like, it's like he's a factor. He's like a Von Miller or an Aaron Donald. It's just like, I wish nothing but the best for Tua. But that was a scary game. When I saw him throw that pass, they're most of like, no. Please don't get hit. Please don't get hit. Because if he blacked out, yes, he's fully 100%. I wasn't nothing but the best. Man, that's really scary. That's really scary. I don't know what to say, man. It scared the daylight, especially what happened to Noah Brown, the Cowboys player. We thought he got a significant injury, potentially like actually die or pass out. That was like, oh my, that's like my heart out. But seeing that two get hit, that was scary. That defense though needs TJ Watt because we know they're not a playoff team this year. We know Kenny Pickett's their guy. He's their guy. He's from Pittsburgh. He has the love of the city by the fans. But honestly, dude, that was scary, man. I picked the Dolphins to win only because Kenny Pickett's a rookie. You don't know the offense is set to run who because Trubisky was the starter week 1, and then now Kenny Pickett won. Even though Mitchell Trubisky won the game for them last week because of injury, interception, all that. But I think the Dolphins won because of their defense. Like, it's weird to say like their defense because it was a defensive second half. But again, please, Tua, I'm not saying this for fantasy or anything. Please do not run the ball as much because I don't want to see him get hit like that again. Because if he does, man, this could be real dangerous.
That's right. Well, that was all the Sunday games, but tonight, unfortunately, there's one more game left for this week 7. We have the Chicago Bears facing the Patriots in New England. Mac Jones will be playing back for the Patriots. Zappy will be on the bench, ready on call, just in case. This is the first game for N'Keal Harry. He wants a revenge game, and hopefully this is the game, but Justin Fields has to give him the ball. Patriot defense, though, this lately has been awesome. But Mac Jones is back, and he's starting, of course, tonight. New England at 3-3, Chicago 2-4. New England in last, but they're trying to climb out of that. The Bears are 2-4, third in the NFC North. A lot of people have the Patriots in this game. Injury-wise, Pringle, again, is on the IR for the Bears with his calf injury. But this to me is like the revenge game for Harry. I think he wants to show the Patriots what they missed. Of course, a lot of Patriots have a lot of players questionable. That's how Belichick wants it. We'll see who plays and how the offensive line is affected, and definitely the defense here is affected. But Isaiah Wynn, of course, is questionable at right tackle. And let's see who else. But Mac Jones coming back, you know he wants to put on a different show. And now I just got the tweet saying Kendrick Bourne will be out, Isaiah Wynn will be out. There's some key other backups for the Patriots that will be out. But I see this game definitely going to the Patriots. They're going to raise havoc on Justin Fields, unless the running game gets going with Montgomery and Herbert. But if that's shut down, they're going to be shut down, or the Bears. So I think Patriots will win probably 24-6 tonight. What do you think, John?
You said Kendrick Bourne and a couple of Patriots players are out tonight, right?
Yeah.
With Mac Jones being back and still maybe not 100%, I'm picking Chicago because of the running attack. Running attack only. I get N'Keal Harris could be like a revenge game. I get it because the team didn't believe in you, but you didn't produce. It's kind of one of those like ego things, maybe. I'm only picking Chicago because I think certain running plays, that's going to be the only reason. Justin Fields may not have more than 150, 180. Maybe, I bet you, at best, you say he goes 14-22, 195 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. But the running attack gets going. They have to get those rushing touchdowns in the red zone if they want to beat the Patriots. Because let's say Mac Jones is fully 100%. Mac Jones goes down the field. I was saying this on the Isaiah's show with Loro, that it is the right decision to bring Mac Jones back in because you drafted him 12th overall in 2021. You don't draft a guy that high, give him all that money, just to get a guy because he had a 2-game stretch. So I guess we see the change so many times in the league where these backup quarterbacks, outside of Nick Foles with the Eagles, that's a very rare exception, where backup quarterbacks play really well, play better than the starter for a couple of games, and then the backup refers to what the backup usually is. But honestly, man, I'm going to pick Chicago by a couple of points because Mac Jones has, even when before he got hurt, it was early on in the season, it just hasn't really looked that good. And so it could be interesting. But I think, like you said, I think it'll be a close game, like a 24-22. But I don't like to do score predictions, man, because I am like the Isaiah of sports score predictions. I hardly ever get them right. But I'll put Chicago to win tonight. It definitely won't be like a crazy exciting game like a Buffalo and Kansas City.
So, quickly, Thursday Night Football coming up for next week, Week 8. Hopefully we'll be with you after that or before that. I don't know. Probably after. But it's Baltimore at Tampa Bay. And I'm hoping.
Oh, God. No.
I'm hoping the Buccaneers can show up well. Brady could do well on, the streaming service. with the Ravens winning a game, hopefully they can keep that going, and Gus Edwards will have more yardage. But that game is really a toss-up to me. And it seems like if the Ravens have 16 points, they'll try to give the game away. But for right now, I guess I'll go with Baltimore. It's so early in the week. It's really tough now, I think, being a Tom Brady supporter. But, I'm going to go with Baltimore with that. What do you think, John, about the Thursday game?
Honestly, I'm trying to think. This is tough when you put me in a bad spot. Not kidding. I'm picking Baltimore. I know. I'm not saying there's always gonna be someone who says, "Oh, you're insinuating that." I'm not insinuating anything. But what I am saying is that at least for the first 7 weeks, Tom Brady has not had a game that he has put the game on his back by himself. He's done it so many times in his career. We're not debating that. But what is the game this season outside of a couple throws here and there where he took the game by his defense wasn't doing their job? Tom Brady came back and he won the game for the Bucs. We haven't had that this season. So I think what we were seeing with Fournette, you saw, he's kind of falling downhill. That's the same thing that happened to him at LSU in 2014 and 2015. Leonard Fournette was in the Heisman race between Leonard Fournette and Marcus Mariota, or is Leonard Fournette and Jairus Winston. I can't remember which one of those two quarterbacks. Between him and Fournette, he's going to win the Heisman, and then Leonard Fournette's a very good player, no doubt. But what I'm saying is, you see it sometimes where he just has that kind of decline in terms of production and rush yards and yards per carry. But I'm going to pick Baltimore solely just because I don't like what's going on with Brady off the field is worse than what's going on with Baltimore off the field. And I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson's going to have like a 300-yard game and 3 to 4 touchdowns of what he did in Miami, his first game of his career. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are done to the first 7 weeks. I don't know what's going on in the system, but when you have a guy, Todd Bowles, who thought, okay, when the season started, he'll get another opportunity. He can prove himself. He has Tom Brady. You have Godwin. You have Mike Evans. You have all those players. Maybe it's his chance to get a new coaching job after the season. But through the first 7 weeks, you're 3-4. So I think Todd Bowles is getting exposed. Tom Brady and this team is getting exposed. I'm not saying, how about Thomas Brady and Pat Jr.? No excuses. I'm picking Baltimore to win this game, but I say 5 to 8 points because Tom Brady has kind of struggled against Lamar Jackson in the past. I think his first or second year in the league, he had like 200 yards passing. So we'll have to see. But honestly, I'm going to pick Baltimore. I know the rushing attack. J.K. Dobbins is out for a couple of weeks. Mark Andrews, though, I guarantee is going to have over 12 catches.
Yeah. Man. That Thursday match. Some big news while we were away. The 49ers, of course, you heard us say about Christian McCaffrey. He was traded to the 49ers from the Carolina Panthers. Panthers get a second rounder, a third rounder, a fourth rounder next season, along with a 5th round pick in 2024. Basically, threw him away for not much, but the 49ers are left with the 3 years and the money there with McCaffrey. I know the big wondering about all this is like who won the trade. Well, if Jimmy G plays the way he is and doesn't get Christian McCaffrey the ball more along with Debo, well, it's going to look like the Panthers won that trade, but they also have to get those picks right. And but they also have to trade some other people that are worth on their team. DJ Moore. It's going to take a lot for them if people wanted their young core players. I think it would take a lot. It would take first rounders, second rounders, and multiple years. But I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think Bradbury. I don't think he's one of the guys that will leave. Bradbury. But who do you think won this trade between the 49ers and the Panthers, John?
Easy, the Carolina Panthers. Remember, Carolina Panthers traded a first-round pick to Jacksonville for their top quarterback they drafted in the first round about 2.5, 3 seasons ago. So you have him and, of course, your second corner. The Panthers won this trade because I get McCaffrey and what he can do with his legs, but looking at the numbers so far, again, anything can happen. But, again, I'm not counting the season because the season's not complete. 2020 and 2021, Christian McCaffrey has started a total of 10 games. So in the last 2 seasons, he's only started 5 games. Like, this is the problem with Carolina. You try to bring like a Joe Brady or this offensive coordinator with Cam Newton, Ron Rivera, Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is great, but the problem is his first 2 years, 100 catches, 100 receptions, over 300, 250 plus attempts, and over 100 receptions. That's going to wear and tear on a running back's body. Not only is a shelf of a running back a couple of years at best, you're not a Adrian Peterson. You don't have a guy like Adrian Peterson or a Frank Gore anymore. So with his wear and tear, only starting 5 games in 2020 and 5 games in 2021, when you find the numbers and divide by 2, what's Christian McCaffrey going to get? Because there's no way that the Panthers are going to get a first-round pick. Because I believe at first there were rumors saying that, Panthers want this for Christian McCaffrey or they want that. But at the end of the day, man, they won the trade. Because, Baker's not the guy. Sam Darnold's gone. You beat Tom Brady this week, so that's already a phenomenal feat on that. Mm-hmm. But, honestly, I think Christian McCaffrey trade is not – because like you said, and we were both agreeing, is that Jimmy Garoppolo at some point, and he did yesterday, is going to show his true colors. Jimmy Garoppolo is like that hot chick. You want to date her? Cool. You get to have some fun, do whatever. And then she shows her true colors. She has anger issues. She's very, verbally abusive. I'm not saying, but the point going back to Chris McCaffrey, he plays really well, but he's been hurt a lot because the Panthers overutilizing a running back does not help you win a Super Bowl. So I'd be curious to see, though, with McCaffrey, how they get me in the red zone. Because with the type of play that he is, that sets him up for a lot of RPO type of plays or plays down the field with a mobile quarterback. But Jimmy Garoppolo is not that guy. We don't know if Trey Lance is that guy, but I see we'll have to see. The Panthers won the trade. They got a lot more picks. Their defense is still young. They're flying under the radar. Work on the offensive line. Get a quarterback. Your interim head coach won his first game. Obviously, he will be there after the year ends because he's the same guy that drafted Josh Rosen in 2018, and we kind of know how that's going pretty much so far. But Panthers, they won a trade, no doubt, man, because you're trying to be in contention right now, but you don't have that guy to get you there. The writing was on the wall for Jimmy Garoppolo to be that guy with San Francisco when he overthrew Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. That writing was on the wall then. So I believe the Panthers won the trade, and the Panthers won the trade more long-term than the Niners won the trade short-term.
So the trade deadline is November 1st, and that's coming right up. Wide receivers are definitely the topic of that whole discussion of who will get traded. Brandon Cooks, Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy are 3 receivers you mentioned. I mentioned DJ Moore. I feel like since the Panthers are looking like they're, trading whatever they can, I think he can be thrown in there. But that's a great question you put in this week. Brandon Cooks, I thought he was going to get traded last year, honestly. But for some reason, he gets traded around a lot. But for some reason, he didn't from Houston last year. Chase Claypool, he is one guy that shows up sometime in games, not all the time. Jerry Jeudy is a guy who is probably looking for a way out of Denver, just trying to revive his career. Remember, he had a great rookie year.
Is he sponsored by Pillsbury Doughboy because his fingers are made out of butter? I've never seen a guy, I'm going to practice on my route running. I'm going to practice on catching the football. And what is he not doing? Route running and catching the football. You can't use that excuse of not having a quarterback. If you're a great receiver, you can put up the numbers. DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin. I mean, do you know how many quarterbacks DeAndre Hopkins had? Larry Fitzgerald when he played in the league. That's 3 guys on top of my head. You can't use that excuse. Jerry Jeudy man, I don't know what it is about Alabama receivers. Outside of Jalen Waddle, man, and Julio Jones, I don't get it.
Yeah, those are three guys definitely there. And then I'm throwing in DJ Moore. I think Green Bay will definitely take a look at him. But the thing is, they don't have a lot of draft capital to trade. But those are four receivers. And then out of those four that I mentioned, who is most likely to get traded, John? For me, I'm thinking definitely DJ Moore, and I'm thinking this year Cooks gets traded. I think both Claypool and Judy. I think both teams there are going to hold on to those guys, and just hope they do better. Hope that they pick it up maybe from now until the end of the season. But I think it's going to be Cooks and Moore that are going to be traded. What do you think?
I think Brandon Cooks is going to be that guy who gets traded first because I could be wrong. Even though last year he had 90 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. So I get the Texans not wanting to trade him at that point because he's been very productive his whole career. With that being said, honestly, if I'm the Steelers, I would trade him because the Steelers are a team, one of the very few teams in the NFL. No matter who they draft at receiver, they can develop them. George Pickens, Claypool, Juju's rookie year, over 50 receptions, over 900 yards, and he was a 19, 20-year-old player. Like, that's high school age. That is absolutely insane. You had Dante Moncrief for a short time. You had Emmanuel Sanders before he went to the Broncos, and he was supposed to be the guy. Then look what you did with Antonio Brown, 6th-round pick. So I don't know who other receiver coaches are. Keep it up. They're doing absolutely phenomenal. But honestly, I would trade. Why not? Like, you have your receivers. It's not like it's Julio Jones with Atlanta, or it was with Adrian Brown with Tennessee, or DeAndre Hopkins with Houston, or let's say Justin Jefferson in Minnesota, or what it was with Allen Robinson was Jacksonville for that short time. I could go on and on. But I definitely think that Jerry Jeudy has to be number 2 because if you're Jerry Jeudy, you're a first-round pick. Remember, Jerry Jeudy was drafted, I believe, in 2019. Let me look that up just to make sure. I believe he was drafted in 20. But supposedly, rumors are also saying that Broncos did get trade calls for him and Bradley Chubb. And with the way Russell Wilson is playing, you still had years to rebuild around Russell Wilson. With that being said, he was drafted. I look it up. I thought he was in a 2019 NFL draft. Excuse me for a second. But if I'm Jerry Jeudy, 2020 NFL draft. You have one more year under your rookie deal. 15th overall pick. You're going to want to get the bag and get $50+ million. And if I'm Jerry Jeudy, you're looking at this team with an injury-prone core inside. You trade one of your best receivers and Noah Fant, who's your top target in 2020, 2021. You're looking at this team like him being prone, injury prone. Javonte Williams is gone for the year. Levin Gordon is following football more than Tristan Thompson does his relationships. I'm not going to get the back here. I'm not going to get paid. Jerry Jeudy in Denver is a total opposite situation than Elijah Moore in with the Jets because it's in his second year. They're rebuilding. He hasn't necessarily proven himself. Jerry Jeudy thinks that he can't prove himself. Get traded because there's plenty of teams. Tampa Bay. I'm not saying Tampa Bay. The picks you could go to. I bet you. And this is just a thought. What if he doesn't get traded but goes to Chicago in 2023?
Yeah.
Because if you look at him, he has one more year of his deal. So essentially, all Chicago has to do is pay his 4th year, and that's it. And you can get receivers in the draft because Chicago has a lot of money. So it wouldn't hurt him financially whatsoever. He could go to the Panthers. But a 3rd pick, I agree with James, would have to be DJ Moore. The thing we're looking at him, he hasn't gotten the job. He's not a solidified receiver. He's not a number 1. He's not a number 2. And when you look at his numbers, they're looking up right now. DJ Moore, he's just not a productive receiver. I know it was a joke when Steve Smith was talking to Cam Newton during like Hard Knocks or something. He said,
"Oh yeah,
should I put DJ Moore on the bench or should I put Hopkins?" And obviously, it's Hopkins over DJ Moore any day. But this whole year, like I get it. DJ Moore has been very productive the last 3 years. The last 3 years, he has over 3,200 yards receiving. But the thing is, you don't have a quarterback. The thing is, your team that's rebuilding, you're going to get those picks. And when the media is asking you, hey, is your team talking about tanking and yada, yada, obviously he's going to say no. Because why would you say, yeah, we're going to tank, we're going to risk all these fines and losing all these picks, especially what happened with the Dolphins owner. I mean, my gosh. But, yeah, he'll be traded, no doubt. He hasn't been talked about enough because they're going to look at it. 2019, 1,100 yards. 2020, nearly 1,200 yards. 2021 last year, 1,100 yards. 87 receptions, 66-93. So if I total up all the numbers, he has a grand total of 246 receptions in the last 3 years and is averaging over 80-plus receptions and over 1,000 yards. That is going to get you the bag. And if I'm DJ Moore, you're not going to get the bag with Carolina, especially if they're rebuilding. So you could go to – I think he should go to Chicago. I think that would really be a formidable weapon for him because imagine with how many different quarterbacks DJ Moore has had, and he's had 1,000 yards every single year outside of 2018. He's been the most underrated – I keep saying this to the guys, and I'm saying this specifically with DJ Moore, because he's like a Julio Jones in terms of doesn't get a lot of touchdowns, but doesn't necessarily have, like, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think he should go to Chicago. 1,100 yards, consistently over 80 receptions a year with over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. And nobody, as far as I'm talking about, is talking about him enough as a great, consistent NFL receiver.
So you put a story in, and we'll go off the grid here for college football. And it's not the college football I think everybody knows, but we have the Southern Showdown going down in Mississippi. Southern University will take on Jackson State. And Deion Sanders, of course, is the coach for Jackson State. They will also have ESPN's College Football Game Day there as well. I know they were in Lawrence, Kansas this year before they lost their big game. Jackson State this year is 9-1. Southern is, in the mid right there in that conference. But it shows you Deion Sanders, primetime. He is definitely putting his mark on college football. And I know there's a lot of schools out there, including his alma mater, Florida State, trying to woo him to be a head coach there. This is definitely a big deal. I remember game day going, I believe, to North Dakota State one time. I think they were scheduled probably to go to Syracuse this week, but Jackson State has taken the attention away there. I'm going to, watch this game, if I remember right, find the channel. But it's been great what you're seeing with Deion Sanders there. He's put in a great way to how to be and how to act. There's a dress code every day, especially on game day. There's a code of conduct he's put in that's been awesome as well. It's just been great to see. A little school like that put out my favorite player of all time, Walter Payton, and that whole conference has put out some great NFL players in the past. So what's your thoughts on this Jackson State game and game day being there with primetime?
Honestly, dude, I'm freaking loving it because this is what we talk about when we talk about the game of football. This is more than just football. There's a reason why he entertained the thought of going like to a FSU or Bama if they say he retires or Tennessee or whatever. But he's not going to take the job. He's not going to consider it. He's going to entertain it. He cares more than just about the football or getting the bag. He cares about changing these men's lives. And that's the thing about football, why he won't take a job in the NFL, according to what he's saying, because often the players are making more than the coach. So if I'm making more than the head coach, why would I give a flying brats anything what the head coach says? He's about changing their lives. It's a big deal because, like, you talk about the code of conduct, everything else that he's doing, because this helps these young men not make decisions that are going to cost them 18 years and a lot of child support, all these other things that really add up. Because you see guys ruin their career in college because of some tiny mistakes. And so I mean, honestly, I love what he's doing. This is my favorite story of football. See, 9-1. You're not just winning games; you're blowing guys out. He got one of the top recruits. Or I forgot which year because he was on the Rich Eisen show talking about it way earlier this year, way before the football season. I'm like, this is the guy that's changing generations. This is a guy that's changing the football program for the better, and it's very rare. I would like to have college game day. Go to Jackson State and change it during the week. What does that say about what Deion Sanders is doing? I mean, you could say whatever about small schools and they don't do a lot, but if you have the right coaching, you have the right staff, it can be done. And you're seeing it. Like, have you and I ever talked about Jackson State? Even before we met each other. Have you ever talked about Jackson State? No. But once you talk about Deion Sanders, we know he's changing the culture, the game, and these young men's lives, and he's going to help them get the bag, help them take care of their families, and that's the things I say is bigger than football, and he cares more about changing these kids' lives than getting a job in the NFL and getting nearly $40, $50+ million, and the guy's not listening. He wants to, like, these guys are still in their age of where they're going to listen or be more mature about certain things because they don't have $40, $50+ million in the bank. You're getting NIL deals now. So Jackson State getting NIL deals. You're on college game day. You're 9-1 on the season. I mean, this is phenomenal. And you're never going to – I don't think you're going to see another coach like this go to a certain program that is not as big as others, like Alabama, Tennessee, UT, OU, whatever Kansas State was for the first 4 games, and do what he has done. And so I give him full credit, man. This is a really good story. And to see him on college game day, I mean, it's not just him on college game day. It's Jackson State, a school like that on college game day. That shows you what he's doing, man. I'm loving every single bit of it.
Yeah, it's something you know, now people I think have to follow, and there's no excuse not to. Well, the unfortunate part about the NFL is the injuries, and Week 7 had a plethora of guys that got hurt that are important and notable. Ross St. Brown had a concussion. He's, of course, with the Lions, and it's a wait and see. You know, he'll do all the tests and whatnot. DJ Metcalf had the knee injury where he was taken off on a cart. And there was some good news coming out of it. He didn't need surgery, but his patellar tendon did have an injury there, and there's no timeline. Luckily, they have Marquise Goodwin to kind of hold it down. Mike Williams for the Chargers had a bad injury. It looked really bad. He didn't put much weight on his leg, helped off the field. He has a sprained ankle, but it looked like it was worse. The Chargers are on a bye next week, and he'll have further tests today to see how he is, but that could have been way worse. Alan Lazard for Green Bay had a shoulder injury against Washington. He was listed as questionable, but he did not return. It could be a labrum injury. We'll have to see. The Packers don't have a bye until Week 14. That's just big importance. Romeo Doubs and Sammy Watkins. That's why I think they got to trade for DJ Moore, but it's going to be a long time to see Alan Lazard. Russell Gage.
I just thought about this. If you do trade for DJ Moore, you have to put Jordan Love in the package. So therefore, you're ultimately stuck with Rodgers. Like, I'm not saying that you're obviously not going to get, like, you're going to get, you should hopefully, a late first-round pick or early second. Because his production has been one of the most consistent in the NFL. It's easy to talk about the Hopkins, Evans, and what Julio Jones used to be. 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards, 1,100 yards, 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns in the last 3 seasons, and over 240 receptions in the last 3 years. So if you're going to trade for him, you have to put Jordan Love in the package. Therefore, Aaron Rodgers is not going to do his opt-out in 2023, and he stays with the team. I don't know what's going to happen, but it just came up in mind. So sorry to interrupt.
No, that's important because you got to ask the Panthers for more. Russell
Yeah,
Gage
get it.
was a wide receiver with Tampa Bay here, and he's had a hamstring injury. Uh, it just means Scotty Miller will get the third spot there. Corey Davis, wide receiver for the Jets, left the game with a knee injury in the first quarter yesterday. He should be back though next week. But definitely the biggest story was Brees Hall and his injury. I think that's going to have the biggest impact out of everyone. He was the focal point of the offense when you really think about it with the Jets. And that's going to be a huge loss. And, I know that we were talking about it briefly there with the Jets and the Broncos game. But that's going to be the biggest loss, I think, because he runs for great yardage every game. He also receives a lot of passes. They're going to have to make a trade out there if they want to get better. There's got to be a running back out there. I know we were talking about the trade deadline. Now, though, they're going to have to go out and get a running back. And I don't know the ones out there, but you would think somewhere, with the Panthers or the Falcons, you have to look at some of their running backs and see if they go in a trade. I'm trying to think somewhere else, but I know Chicago want to load theirs. Pierce is, he's the focal point there with the Texans. Jaguars, I think, will have theirs for a long time, unless it becomes dysfunctional and somebody wants out. But maybe they'll look for the NFC South and see a running back there. That's all I can think the Jets do, honestly. But what did you think about the injury to Bryce Hall for the Jets?
I think that could determine if they make the playoffs or not. Because as you're seeing with, it's not just, he's made contradictory. No, with how Zach Wilson is so adjusting coming back. He's only throwing like barely 200 yards a game. He had an interception. He is definitely the guy to help this team win when Zach Wilson is not playing well. Zach Wilson is, in the last 3 games, has, 400 yards total. No touchdowns, no picks. But they're running the ball really well with Brees Hall. Without Brees Hall, you could not see the unlock of maybe what Zach Wilson could do on certain plays. So now you're going to rely a lot on Michael Carter. And he could have over 150 attempts at the end of the year. That could put wear and tear in his body. Elijah Moore could get a lot more targets and catches. That's what he was ranting about. He wanted to get a trade. But he hasn't earned that demand for a trade. You haven't earned any respect in the Jets organization. So stop the cap on that one. Don't be a complete jerk like Antonio Brown, Tom Brady. But now with him being out, the Jets are really going to have to figure out, does Elijah Moore get more carries? Do we put a lot on our backup, Michael Carter? Zach Wilson's not going to put the game on his back for you because his best game was 252 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. This season, 693 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. He's having a worse year so far. Again, regardless, whatever, than Josh Rosen his first year or two. So at this point, man, it's going to be super devastating. I think defense can pick it up, but even though the defense can pick up and get a lot of big plays, the offense has to reciprocate what the defense is doing and how they could do that with Brees Hall being out for the year.
Yeah, that's just horrible news, of all the things that are happening great with the Jets. It always seems like that in football, in the NFL. Just one player getting injured and the focal one, it just ruins the whole season. And we'll see how the Jets in Robert Saleh does from here. Just hoping the best for them as they go on. But, John, it's been a great show here with Punt Off. I believe episode 8, I think it's been.
Yeah.
And hopefully more to come. I know with our teams winning, that felt better. Mm-hmm. Your team more looks, toward the division. And they're kind of peaking at the right time. But there's still more games to go. With the Bengals, with the Raiders, they're trying to, play better. And I was looking at the schedule, the previous games, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Raider fan. They could easily be 6-0. All their games that they've lost are winnable. They gave up the game in LA, or not gave it up, but they couldn't come back. There's been like 4 or 5 games or 3 games where they had to come back. And then they gave up that game against Arizona. So it kind of hurts knowing that, hey, they could be up there with Kansas City. But it's just the difference of last year and this year. They're losing games that are 50-50 at the end in the fourth quarter that they have a shot. And it just hurts knowing that they could be better than what their 2-4 record is. All that being said, they still have a shot somehow to make a wild card spot. I mean, looking at the standings for both conferences, it's just not – it's just been an odd year. But a credit to all the New York teams, even the 2 that play in New Jersey. They're doing so well. And it's just a shock to see, honestly. What are your takes and final thoughts of episode 8 here, John?
It was a great show. Always have a lot of fun here. Honestly, man, final thoughts is a great show. And like I said, the Bengals, 13 touchdowns, 1 pick is that game with one of the Steelers. But again, that big reason why a little bit is Joe Burrow's mental. Like Joe Burrow holds on to the ball too long. The offensive line needs to stop letting him get sacked. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, that can win you a lot of games. But the question is, can that offensive line hold up long enough for Joe Burrow to get to Tyler Boyd, to get to Higgins, to get to Jamar Chase? But if they can, could be an interesting year. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, honestly, who knows? But it was a great show. We thank you all so much for watching. James, to myself, Christy, you all can punt off, and we will see y'all later. Peace.